like to give massive thanks to all of my supporting members and patrons. Thank you all so very much. Hello, good evening, welcome to all of you. I see we've got a nice bunch of people in here already, 44 watching already, smashing stuff. First of all, I'd like to say a big thanks to Judy Bassett, for super chat of €7, saying something for Arnold. Appreciate that, Judy, or at least Arnold will. Thank you very much. And also, massive thanks to WebBard, a new sensible member. Welcome, Web, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Well, I've got lots of people in here tonight, all the usual names, plus some others. If it's your first time here, you're very, very welcome. We do allow free speech here, as long as there's no gratuitous swearing or anything racist or anything like that. Opposing views are not only allowed, they are welcomed, because it all gets interesting then. Well, as you can see, joining us tonight we have Arwijn. And he's been posting in the side chat there, which is nice to see. And I see he's sat in the live waiting room, so I'll bring him through in a minute. Let me just adjust this a little. That's a bit better. I sounded funny in my own ears. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the Silly Simon Dan video. I haven't heard from Dan. I don't know if that's because he's butthurt or he's planning his revenge. We shall see. It was all good fun. I enjoyed it anyway. And that's the main thing. Yeah. So I guess... we'll crack straight on. So I'll give you a few seconds warning, Arwijn, just to allow it to come through the stream. But I'll pull you through into the live room and we'll begin. Just so people know, what it was I was just trotting around and I went onto one of Arwijn's streams and just started joining in the side chat. And Arwijn said, oh, there's Mr. Sensible, he's quite welcome. And I was talking with people in the side chat, and Arwijn picked up a couple of things I said, and there was a little bit of back and forth. It was all very nice, very polite, not an issue at all. And afterwards, I asked Arwijn if he wanted to come on a stream, and he's kindly agreed. So here we are. Right, let's pull you onto the stream, Arwijn, and fingers crossed this all goes. Let me switch on the desktop audio so we're good to go there from the start. Let's try this. Hello, Arwijn. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Let me just turn up your volume a little bit. Do you want to just say something else just so I can test it?
Right. I hope Discord is not giving me troubles today.
Yep, it's all looking okay. It's all looking okay at mine. Just out of interest, I'm just trying something new. Can you see the video of me there? And
on YouTube? Oh,
no, on a Discord. I've got it on Discord, so there's no delay, but I'm just wondering if I'm appearing with all the text coming the right way or the wrong way. It's just that I've not done it before.
I'm not seeing it.
You're not
seeing
it?
I do see the icon of video, but there's nothing that I can click in there that reveals some kind of screen.
Ah, well, don't worry about it.
There is a screen, but it's completely black.
Yeah, not to worry. What I'll do then is I'll switch it off because that's just using resources for no reason. Yeah, okay, so... Thank you very, very much for coming on, Arwijn. I really appreciate it, especially at such short notice. Now, we had just a very brief chat yesterday evening or tomorrow morning or sometime next week, I'm not sure, with your different time zone. And I said I didn't really know much about yourself. Let me make myself clearer. When I say that is, I don't know much about your flat earth beliefs, where you're coming from. For instance, do you think it's a dome? It's not a dome. Do you believe in space? Do you believe the sun is real? All sorts of things like that. You know, I just don't know your position. So I wondered, do you want to give us a rough sort of portrait of what your position is?
Well, I try to keep things simple, because if I don't, things get extremely elaborate. So I am a theorist first and foremost. I like world building. All kinds of interest in this. Had this way before I got into flat Earth. And it was actually by accident in ways that I was also drawn into flat Earth because of my interest in maps and the representation of maps and old maps.
Okay.
And through that, yeah, weird conspiracies, as one could say, didn't even start out with the Earth being flat, but other Earth shapes or origin of the supposed Earth ball, what happens to it, all kinds of things out there on the internet. And this is between 2008, 2012.
So around 10 years you've been a flat earther, something like that order.
No,
Oh,
no, I didn't even think about the Earth being flat too much.
so how long, just roughly, have you been a flat earther, do you think? Oh, apparently you are a bit quiet. Let me just see if I can turn. Sorry about that, everyone. I'll boost your volume. If you carry on, Arwijn. People, please let me know if Arwijn's a bit quiet. That's not intentional. I'd like to get in
We're all born
balance.
flat Earthers, so because the Earth is flat. Now, whether you actually realize that is another matter. But I've been confronted with flat Earth many times throughout my life, even very young. And the weird thing is that I was always just a lot more enthusiastic for the idea of outer space and other planets. And the CGI that was back in my day not that aplenty. So I was like almost looking forward, being into computers, to like, oh my god, that means there's going to be so much better imagery available, like the old sci-fi movies and series. Like I knew like this is going to be so much better, and I was just always a fan of space, never really thinking too deeply into whether that could actually happen and what is the real setup of the world too much.
So you were keen on space at least at one time. So do you think
Still
space?
am.
You still are. So you accept that there's space out there beyond the atmosphere, whatever shape the Earth
No.
is. Oh,
No.
well, where is? Go on and explain.
No, there is no outer space out there. There's only outer space in here, in our minds. And
You might have to run that by
that's
me
not
again, Arwijn,
the
and
end.
explain that. That's the first time I've heard that. What do you mean by that?
It's a conjured realm. It's something mankind has created through our imagination and storytelling traditions. And I think the concept, the visualization system is extremely old. It's ancient.
But
It
I'm
was
not sure
probably
what you're saying.
used to
So
train. It was probably used to originally train people, probably the priesthood at the time, which were the most knowledgeable in ancient times,
so
in visualization practices.
right. So Arwijn, if you could take off in an aircraft or a rocket or a balloon or climb a really, really long ladder or whatever the hell it is, if you went up, 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 what do you think you would reach? Forget the fact whether you can breathe or not, but you're in a suit, so you've got air, so that's not a problem. You climb up this really, really tall ladder. Do you think you're going to hit a dome? Do you think the atmosphere will run out? Do you think there's water up there? What do you think's up there?
I'm not much of the idea that there's supposed to be water up there,
Good.
even though there are biblical related references to this.
There
It
is
makes
the
for
waters
beautiful
above.
CGI, and it gives a kind of correlative explanation for why the sky is blue. I don't really believe or buy into any of that, but there has to be containment of some kind, so there has to be a top. I'm not necessarily attributing some kind of dome-like shape about it, but there has to be an end at some point. Now, whether you could actually reach that in a rocket, that end, is another matter. Simply not be able to get enough pressure together in the rocket to reach it, not even with a lot of momentum.
But so am I taking from what you said? Because I definitely, you know, if I mistake something you're saying, please point it out. It's not a case of me trying to put words in your mouth. I just want to check. So are you saying that there is not, or you just don't know if there's a dome or not, or other container like that?
To be a container.
Yeah. Not right now.
There's
I'm
no other
not
option.
arguing about all the
We're
pressure.
breathing.
But do you think that there is something like a dome of whatever shape, some rigid structure, shall we say?
I don't know exactly what the nature of the containment is, but I do know that it has to be a limited amount of volume in some way, in some order. So whether that means there's literally the end to space for matter to fill, literally like the end of space, no more possibility of moving beyond a certain volumetric limit
In effect,
for
are
anything
you
physical,
limiting?
or whether that is a physical structure that inhibits further movement and there might be some other compartment outside. There's all kinds of potential options
So
that I don't have
are you
certainty about.
providing a limit on the size of the universe, whatever that size is? Are you saying it's so far and that's it?
Well, I don't know how far it is, but I do know that it has to stop at some point, and it can't be too far away.
Well, okay. How far away do you think stars are then?
I don't think they have any actual distance.
What do you mean by that?
By that I mean I don't think they have Euclidean positions.
So, what do you think they're imagining it? Do you think they're on a screen? Do you think they're projected on whatever containment?
On containment. Oh, that's interesting because that
Like a
already
screen?
kind of well, can I finish an
Yeah,
answer?
please.
That would be
Yeah.
convenient,
Hey,
for a
I
show.
haven't been deliberately sort of trying to cut you off. Please finish your answer.
Because I can answer every single aspect of every single question you ask. So just so you know, you don't have to elaborate. I understand this is my profession pretty much. I'm a cosmogonical theorist. So all these elements I've talked about to no end, right? So what I think the luminaries are, well, there is a reference through the Bible like that, but they are a very mysterious phenomenon because they're basically light-based optical phenomena. So phenomenon, like each one is a phenomenon in its own,
What, the
but
stars you're
they're
talking
not
about?
originating lights from Euclidean positions like light that we could fabricate here on Earth. So they are kind of unique types of light in their own respect. And that includes the sun, by the way, and the moon.
So you're saying, are you? Sorry, I'm asking. Are you saying that stars, sun, moon are not physical objects? Is that what you're saying?
That is absolutely what I'm saying.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm just trying to establish that for sure because, as I said, I do not want to put words in your mouth and I don't want to be accused of that, okay? Not by you, by anyone else.
Fine.
Wow. So I'm guessing then from that, if the moon is not a real physical place, you don't think that we went to the moon in the Apollo missions either?
No, that would be absurd.
Well, it would be absurd if it didn't exist. Of course, we.
Well, even if it did exist, then even the setup would be quite absurd.
Why?
Because a lot of things happened during the supposed moon landing that are technically impossible,
Like what?
like having footage of a launching pod with no manner to retrieve the video footage because there was not available technology at the time. There was no digital tape in order
Right.
to
So, sorry,
transfer
are you
that.
talking about when they
So that's
when
just one little element.
are,
Not
are you
let's not get
talk?
into the
No,
lighting
no,
of
no.
the,
Okay,
the
but are
footage,
you talking
you know?
about when they filmed the lander as it was leaving the moon? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
There's broadcast rate, TV signals at that time.
Yeah, that's very cute.
Well, I mean, it was
But they're
around.
not going to reach all the way to Earth.
No, it would reach to the orbiter, which then broadcast to Earth.
Oh, really? In that quality?
Well, it wasn't that good quality, not when you compare it to
Well, it was
today.
just as
And we
well
used to
as
get
all the
people
other
moaning
footage.
about the quality of
In,
it.
I don't know about any footage transceiving in that manner. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Okay, all right, all
Yeah,
right,
that's just one element. It's just one of the more outstanding elements about it.
all right.
You know.
Well, I mean, something like the moonshot. I mean, it has been argued over left, right, and well, all this stuff's been argued over left, right, and centre. But it's harder for you or me or anyone in the chat to produce any hard evidence for. What about something more close to home? Can I ask, do you believe if there's an atmospheric pressure gradient from 14.7 pound per square inch at ground level going upwards?
Yes,
You
of course.
do, you do.
Yes, but yeah, any container of gas can be has gradients to some extent. That's natural state of gas pressure having found the equilibrium in the available volume. Then a gradient sets in as a secondary effect. This is only natural.
Why?
Like even in a dynamic system, which the Earth realm is, with the sun constantly or the daylight being absorbed at ground level, creating heat and thus pressure, and all these things, even with that, the gradient is still persistent. So it's only natural effect secondary to gas pressure finding the equilibrium within the available volume.
Why, though, would there be a gradient?
Because of relative density, presumably.
But all there is, let's take our container, a very big container that has a gradient in it. You know, it's 100 miles tall, you know, like our atmosphere, and we've got a gradient in it, which I agree we would have under those circumstances. That's all we've got in it is air. If it was density disequilibrium type of thing, then things like carbon dioxide would all be at the bottom, and lighter gases would all be at the top. But that's not what we find. We find one homogeneous mix.
Yeah, that's right, because it's gas, of course, right? So gas has a density, but it also goes in all directions, so it becomes kind of an inhomogeneous mix to some extent. But on average, the gas spread out and then divide themselves among the mesh with the lighter density gases on top and the heavier density gases mixed at the bottom.
But that's not what we find. We find a mix all the way up.
Right, and all the way up, the amount of hydrogen and helium is a lot more of that than all the way to the bottom where there is the heavier gases and like water vapor.
But if you're going to do that, you're going to get all the really heavy gases, carbon dioxide, xenon, and all those heavy gases are all going to pool. Like in World War One, where they spread mustard gas, it then sat in all the hollows and dips. But that's not what we find with our atmosphere.
It still mixes up with everything that is at ground level, so it doesn't like go and sit in a very thin layer. It still mixes up with the gases that surround it all, right? Just goes on average in a relative position to the mesh.
Okay, well, so you accept, or even are quite happy, that there is an atmospheric gradient. So it's 14.7 down here at sea level, and up at the top of Everest, for instance, it's roughly 30% of that. And as you go higher, it gets lower and lower and lower. Do you think it reaches a point X and then doesn't get any lower?
Yeah, where the container barrier is.
So you think there would be atmosphere touching whatever this container is?
Absolutely, has to touch it. Cannot be vacuum next to gas pressure in a container. That's an impossibility.
So, I presume that you have seen my Mage balloon video, because I went down. Yep. So it started off at ground level, and it was just over 100,000 pascals of pressure. By the time Mage got up to 38.25 kilometres, it had got down to 300 pascals. That's a fraction. And of course, had the balloon not burst, it would have carried on higher. 300 down from 100,000. That's not much. That's barely any. So why do we need a container? If you carried on down, if a couple kilometres up, it's down from, let's just, now I am making figures up. Let's say you would go up a couple more kilometres and it drops to 150. A couple more kilometres, it drops down to 80. You keep going, and that pressure's going down, down, down. Why should you need a container? We got 100,000 down here, where Mage was, there was 300. So why didn't it all rush up? Yeah, but why didn't it all rush up to the 300 point? Go ahead.
Well, why do we need a container? Well, because if there was no container barrier for the gas to find an equilibrium with the mesh within the container, it would keep on expanding and rush out with explosive force until it would meet the confines of the available volume within the container, whatever it may be. If there is no container wall because it's an endless outer space, that would mean it will never find its equilibrium and explode out into outer space for all eternity. But there would never be a gradient of any sort to form.
Well, where Mage was at 300 pascals, that's a pretty good vacuum.
No, it's not a vacuum. It's
Yes,
just
it is.
lower pressure. No,
It
that's
is.
just lower pressure. There's still gas there. It's not a vacuum.
Well, there's still gas in space. 10 to the negative 17 torr. There is still gas there. What is a vacuum?
Vacuum is the absence of gas pressure.
And is space, in the model, is space a vacuum?
Yes, absolutely it is.
But there is gas there.
It's actually an impossible to achieve vacuum. Even.
No, it isn't, because
Never been created here on Earth. Never been demonstrated.
we've
never
got
been
very close to it.
calculated.
On Earth, we got down to about 10 to the negative 14, if memory serves. We an ultra hard. That's called an ultra hard vacuum. We have got down to that. That's very, very specialist. Space is a harder vacuum. It's not a perfect vacuum. Where Mage was, I forget if it counts as a medium or a low vacuum, but it does count as a vacuum. You got to. I'm afraid it does.
For what purpose does it count as a vacuum?
I'm sorry, say again.
Because you want to think it is a vacuum? Because it's not, though. There's still air pressure, and it's right next to lower levels of gas pressure below it.
There is pressure in space, though, Arwijn.
Does that have to do with anything?
Well, you're just saying that where Mage was at 300, it was not a vacuum because there is pressure there. I'm saying in space there is pressure there. It's very, very, very low pressure. It's 10 to the negative 17 approximately torr of pressure, but there is pressure. The only time you've got no pressure, would be in the theoretical perfect vacuum at 0 torr.
You're just nitpicking now.
I'm not.
Just nitpicking about what a vacuum means, right? None of this proves that a gas pressure can actually exist next to an outer space ultra vacuum. None of this proves anything about that. You're just nitpicking over the meaning of vacuum right now.
Well, the pressure at ground level, the 100,000 pascals, is in effect existing next to the pressure there is at 38 kilometres of only 300 pascals. It has no problem existing next to that without rushing up there. So why should the 300 have any problem existing next to a lower one higher up still? Sorry, are you cutting out?
Why would there be a problem? There's just there's higher pressure down below.
Yep.
There is gas going up.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, what do you mean gas going up?
Pressure expansion. Right? So there is, because it is a dynamic system after all. Okay? There's a lot happening constantly within the realm. Right? Heat cycles, day and night, water cycle.
Actually, there's very little. What you get is from down at ground or sea level up to the stratosphere, you do get a lot of mixing, and that's all part of your weather, as you said, heat rising, cool air falling, and all that sort of thing. You go above that, there's actually into the stratosphere. There's actually very little mixing of the gases. But okay, at sea level you've got the 14.7, and at the top of Everest you've got about 30% of that. Why doesn't all the gas pressure, the atmospheric pressure at sea level, rush up to the top of the mountains and equalise? Why does it stay down?
I don't know for sure. My presumption would be relative density, or you would call it gravity. Still use that in the model. I don't. I think their relative density probably has a role to play. After all, a helium balloon will rise up when it's released at ground level.
Why?
Right? Just like your balloon. So if that goes up, then so must the lighter gases on average. Now they will spread out, of course, when they're not contained within a separate container. So it will spread out. So yeah, a gradient exists. This has all been established already.
I know it has, but some people deny it. Some people.
Where is this line of questioning going? Okay.
Well, it's a discussion, Owen. It's a discussion. But there is certainly one. Spurs Chemo thinks there's no atmospheric gradient up to 50 kilometres. He said it's all the same. So I don't. I don't know if you're aware of him saying that.
Well, he has taken on some very odd positions within the gas pressure debate in the past. I don't know his current views about it, so I don't know if he still persists on this view. I'm not on that same boat. Pretty sure it's contained,
Okay, so
as in absolutely certain because we're breathing.
but that's not evidence of a container, because we're breathing down here.
It is.
No, hold on. We're breathing down here, okay? And if we could magic you to the top of Everest with without acclimatization and oxygen bottles and that, there is a dead zone up there. You won't 100% die, but there's a very good chance of you dying from hypoxia. Isn't that the word? I think that's the word, but lack of oxygen.
Right, because the pressure is lower.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, but there's still some
so
pressure there, and still down below you can breathe. So it has to be contained, because
Yeah, but there's
otherwise
no
that pressure down below could not exist there.
Lots of people die up there because of lack of pressure, so there's not enough oxygen. Agreed.
Yeah, but there is still pressure.
Yeah, yes,
in
yes.
a stable fashion. It's not explosively rushing away, which would happen if there was no containment.
Yes, there is oxygen up there. Yes, there is pressure. Absolutely, it's somewhere in the region of 30%. Yes, some people could survive.
Venting away. The pressure is not lowering at a constant rate.
No,
it's dramatic results, right?
So no. Hold on. It is lowering in a nice, gentle curve. It's not. Go up 100.
I'm not talking about of pressure as you go up. I'm talking about the overall pressure everywhere, right? The overall pressure everywhere is relatively stable at the height it is. Well, depending on the weather system.
Yes.
Right? So if there was no containment, that would not be there.
Why?
All the pressure everywhere would be constantly lowering, probably extremely explosively lowering, but it would not be relatively stable in a gradient setup.
If you're saying that the reason we got the pressure we have down here at ground level so much higher than at the top of Everest is because of a container, I would have to say why? Because there's nothing in between down here and the top of Everest. The atmosphere just seems to decide to stay mostly down here rather than equalising or all rushing up to the top of Everest.
Because the vacuum is already filled.
What do you mean the vacuum is already filled?
Stabilized. So gradient sets in as a secondary effect. This can be demonstrated. Actual containment, how this works.
Sorry, I talked over you now when I didn't mean to. Say that again, please.
The gradient set in as a secondary effect once the gas pressure has filled the available container. So that only happens after the container is filled. If there is some vacuum somewhere openly available for gas to push into, then it will rush there very quickly. And then after that vacuum has been filled, then a gradient might set in, depending on the circumstances and the size of the container. Right?
Well, not really, because I don't know why.
Not really.
No. I'm saying you said right, and I'm saying not really to right. I'm still questioning your thoughts. If you've got this big container and you start putting atmosphere in it, why should it go to the bottom? If one, let's say I put that container, put that atmosphere in, I put a bung in it so it's sealed, so it's not going to rush out to any vacuum. You're saying it will settle into a gradient. Okay, so I then turn a container over. What would happen?
A big container turning it over.
Yeah, it would be a big container. I'm really strong, and I turn this huge container.
What can I answer without you over talking immediately? Please. Right? So if it was a really big container, you would turn it over, then there would be all kinds of gas pressure changes because, there's literally a push because of the laws container of pushing against the gas as it is motioning. So then it would, have to find equilibrium once again, and then a gradient sets in depending on the orientation of the container after it has been reorientated.
But if it's a sealed container, what makes it orient in any way? There's got to be something external that says, right, you go to this end, you stay at that end. We want more of you at this end.
Density.
Yeah, but the gas doesn't know which is the, quote, top or bottom. Why would it go one way or another?
It does, because gas too is subjected to relative density. It's also subjected to gas laws, the effects of what gases do, right? But it's also subjected to relative density. A helium balloon proves this.
I'll come back to helium balloon. I will just jot down a little reminder so I don't forget balloon, helium balloon. But what I'm saying is, Arwijn, if you pop that gas in there, you're saying it will move according to its density or relative density. Okay, so you've got this bit of gas or amount of gas is more dense than that amount of gas. So how does it know which end to go? There must be something that persuades it, makes it decide, forces it to go one way or another.
A gas doesn't have a sentience or
no, of course not.
It has to abide by the laws that it's subjected to.
Yes, but
and relative density is one of these things. It's just divided in two divisions, two directions, the axis.
Yes, but
it's just that's the way it works.
You can't just say that's the way.
Answer why. There's no answer why. It just answers exactly how, and that is less dense goes up, the denser goes down.
Density isn't a vector
to what the object and what it's surrounded by.
So if I now pull out a cubic centimetre of lead, which is pretty dense, why should it go in any particular direction? And if I turned it over, will it go the other way?
Are you holding it up in the air?
Yeah, I was just pretending. Yeah, I'm holding it up in the air in front of me. Okay.
All right.
And let's say there's an arrow pointing on it, pointing downwards, just for the sake of argument. Is that the direction it will go if I let go of it?
No, it's going to go down where down is. It's just the way things are orientated.
Okay, so it goes downwards. So I then paint an arrow on it in the direction it went, downwards. I pick it back up again, turn it the other way so the arrow is pointing the other way. Which way will it go?
It's still going to go down. It doesn't really matter what direction you paint an arrow onto it.
No, the arrow was an indicator as to which way it went before. So why will it go that way, though, and not upwards or forwards or left or right?
Because that's the way things are set up. That's how it works. I don't know why. But I do know that it does.
Yeah, but do you not wonder why?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore?
It's a time. Chasing dragons.
Gravity, you fucking... Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity?
I just know how it works. And that is very... that's satisfying to me. It's good enough.
It's not really good, Well, no, that's unfair. Because...
Is it unfair?
No, I'm saying I'm being unfair. I'm saying, because I was saying that's not good enough, but no, I'm being unfair. Because in a lot of our lives, we just accept things. For instance, I drive my car, I don't understand how it works, I don't care, it works. So I can actually, understand that. So I was being unfair when I was saying that was not good enough. For me, personally, I want to know why.
Just a story, if you really want some kind of story that's really inspiring to a company as to why it's divided. Hey, I could even drag in ancient fairy tale traditions, stick it on top of that. They used to do that to make information more memorable, part of what religion used to be, right? Before it all got politicized and all that.
Well, I don't have anything to do with religion.
It's just, I know how it works. Now, there's been a lot of speculation as to why it works that way. The problem is it never moves beyond speculation. There's no actual physical demonstrable evidence that it is anything other than just relative density without an explanation as to why it goes in the directions it does.
Well, let's come back then to your helium balloon. I jotted that down. What was it you were saying about helium balloon? Helium balloon goes up, yeah? Arwijn? Hello?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can now. I said, going back to the helium balloon, which you mentioned, you're saying that helium balloons go up, yes?
Yes, they do.
And I'd say most of the time. They'll go down if you put them in a a vacuum chamber, if you get the if you evacuate most of the atmosphere in a chamber, that helium balloon will go downwards.
Well, that's correct, but that is, of course, because eventually, if you lower the pressure, whatever gas type it is, around it,
Yep.
If you lower it enough, then eventually that total volumetric mass, you could call it, the density of the medium around surrounding the helium balloon, will not be higher than its average density, and then yeah, it will go down because that's the way relative density works.
So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, our balloon won't pop. Okay, so we've got this balloon of helium, and we evacuate the chamber that the balloon is in, and it goes downwards. We both agree on that, don't we? Again, why downwards? Because it's
Because
in a.
the helium
hold on.
balloon is now
Hold
in a
on. You
vacuum
said you didn't like. You picked up on me saying I jumped on you. Please let me just finish. I'm saying, why would it go down? Because now there's not even any atmosphere to sort of sort with. You know, I'm more dense than this little bit of atmosphere, less dense. There is nothing in there. Okay, so why does it choose any particular direction?
Because the nothing in which it is, right, that vacuum chamber, that nothing, its density, the density of that nothing is very low, and thus the helium balloon will be denser than that nothing, which density is very low. That's why.
Well, I get what you're saying.
It's not about what matter is present or absent. It's about the average volumetric pressure. It's basically the density of whatever is in there or is not in there.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying, and it's like the density, that density tower with all those different liquids. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. That's fine. I do not, and I don't think anyone here would disagree that the helium balloon would go down in a vacuum chamber. If you had it out here, it would go upwards and so on. The reason, the query is, or the question is, why? And for us, it's nice and easy. It's one letter, G. Gravity.
Yeah, that doesn't prove anything. I already answered your question twice. I don't know why you keep asking the same
Well,
question.
we're having a discussion, but okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Is there any particular aspect or favourite thing or strong evidence that you think that you have for a flat Earth?
Yes.
Okay.
The horizon is not a sphere edge. How about that one?
Okay. Go on. And what do you want to say about that? Or is that it? That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, the horizon, what we see out there, doesn't abide by the necessities of the geometry if the Earth were a ball. So it doesn't obstruct things in the distance in the fashion that it should, consistent with spherical geometry of the presumed size of ball Earth.
And what about those pictures of, I mean, especially that famous one with that 3-mast sailing ship, where sort of 90% of the hull is out of sight and you can only just see the very, very top and the masts and the sails, basically the bottom of the ship's disappearing. What do you say to that then?
Well, there's all kinds of sites, and there is bottom-up disappearing that is even present in the small scale with confirmed measured flat surfaces. It still happens because it's inherent to optics. It happens when you look over a flat surface low enough, then things will seem to obstruct. It has to do with the angular resolution limit of the observing medium, which is your eye or your camera. It happens. Things seem to obstruct bottom up when they go far enough into the distance over a flat surface.
Our survey said
it's not angular resolution though. Taking that
yes, it is.
Hold on. Let me explain them. You take a sailing boat with a mast. Okay, you put it at that distance where a large portion of the hull has disappeared. You're saying it's because of angular resolution. How come I can still see the mast, which is really, really narrow, but I can't see the hull, which is, let's say, 20 foot tall?
Because it's blended in with the surface that you're looking over.
Okay, so
that's how it works. It's demonstrable. So it's confirmed to happen even when you look over a surface that is measured confirmed flat. It happens. It's a natural optics effect.
So if we forget a ship, let's say we had a boat, but it's on something like a salt lake, yeah? We just sat it there on a salt lake for an experiment. We move it far enough away so that we get that effect. You can see that the bottom half or whatever of the hull is gone. Let's put that boat up on little legs. Okay, it's the same distance. We put it up on little legs, or legs that are tall enough. You can now see all that hull. You can see the mast. The angular resolution of the mast. The mast is, let's say, a foot thick. The hull is 10 foot from top to bottom, or 15 foot from top to bottom. You can see them both at that distance. You take the little legs away, so it's back on the floor again. Half the hull disappears.
Yeah.
Because it's hidden behind the curve.
Nope. I already
Okay.
told you.
Yeah, you told me. You told me. You haven't proved it, but you told me.
And rebuttal without being interrupted, right? I already said this bottom-up obstruction effect is optics inherent, and it happens even when looking over confirmed, measured flat surfaces. It still happens. Has nothing to do with curvature.
You're talking about those things like on tabletops and things like that with coins and stuff like that.
Yep.
Right. So what do you think is hiding these things then?
I don't know exactly why it works the way it does, but I know that it works that way. Even when looking over confirmed measured flat surfaces. Very interesting, isn't it?
Sorry, what's very interesting?
That things obstruct bottom up. They seem to the bottom seems to conceal itself when you look over a flat surface towards something. It's very interesting that happens.
I would suggest. Now, I'm going to be honest and say, when it comes to optics, I mean, I'm sure, without doubt, there are 1,000,001 people out there who know a hell of a lot more about optics than me. Okay, but if you're looking, if you're doing stuff at tabletop scale, a big table, right down at that surface, any imperfections in that table are going to make a massive difference. And what about focus? I mean, you'd have to get the lens so it's half above, half below. You're going to get all sorts of optical effects from that.
No, that's not how that works at all. It can be absolutely smooth, polished, a glass.
Okay.
Could be a perfectly smooth glass table that is laser perfect flat, and it'll still happen.
Sorry, people. Sorry, Arwijn. The high-pitched squeal is my aircon. It does it every now and then. Let me switch it off. It'll go in a second. Sorry about that. It's a problem I've been having lately, Arwijn. My aircon's decided to start whining every now and then, and it really picks up. I can just about hear it, but on the mic it really picks it up.
That's the steam coming out of your ears.
So, I mean, going back to the ship, we've got that ship that's half hidden. Okay, if we rise in height in a helicopter or something, or climb a tall building, we can suddenly see all the ship again, because we can now see that little bit further round a curve. Can you explain that?
Observation height is higher, and then the apparent obstructing effect or the concealment. I described it very early on in my discovery of all these optics effects as the optical slant. It migrates. So this apparent obstructing point
the laws of
where
physics.
things start to obstruct bottom up, right? It's a certain distance in relation to the observation height. Now, if you go higher, then this point migrates forward, further into the distance.
An optical slant, did you say?
Yes.
Can you explain that at all?
It's descriptive, so it's not based. It's purely a descriptive effect of how it looks like, how your visual spatial intuition could get a grasp on the visuals, right? In a 3D fashion. I have drawn it out. I've shared that picture many times. I don't know where I can share this.
Right.
Can I drop it somewhere in this?
Yeah. If you DM it to me.
General.
Yeah, you can put it in general chat. Yeah.
All
I'll have to muck around to get it on there, but I'll happily do that.
It's a pretty primitive picture.
Yeah, that's fine. Just even if it's a hand-drawn diagram or whatever, it doesn't matter. Hasn't appeared yet. Have you dropped it in?
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
There.
Okay, let me just... Oh, actually, I might be able to do this a bit easier than I thought. Just bear with me a second, Arwijn. Right.
So this does not technically abide by any kind of diagram or technical language you would probably find out there. Because I put it together. Well, although there are elements like refraction and diffraction that I do suspect are directly involved in these effects, right?
Right.
But,
Yes. Sorry, Arwijn. I'm not trying to ignore you. I'm just trying to get this image across. I think it's coming across now. It's not perfectly placed on the screen. Let me just muck around with it a little more.
People have seen it.
Okay, I've got it a bit better now. Right, field of view, optical slant. Okay, I've got the diagram. If you tell me when it comes through, and then you can actually see it.
There.
Yeah.
See it.
Yeah. So just explain it to us. And I appreciate it's just a rough
right
diagram.
there.
Yeah.
Well, it's right there. So the optical slant is the point where the apparent obstruction will start, and then it doesn't actually continue on at an exponential rate obstructing, which would have to be there if the Earth was actually spherical curve-wise. The amount of drop would have to be exponential. It's not, however. After the optical slant point, the amount of apparent obstruction builds up in a linear fashion. I just noticed that this happens in general. And yeah, that's also after that point is where miraging effects might start to set in. And then the horizon always has an endpoint, and that is at the end of sight, which will be caused by diffraction, which universally blurs up everything in sight, the atmospheric quality and all that. At some point, you're just not going to be able to see any further, no matter how much direct line of sight you have.
Well, with something like Mage, leaving aside when literally as I launched it, of course it was blocked by trees and you could see across a few fields. When it was up a couple hundred feet, you could see a fair distance. I don't know how far, a few miles. When it was at the top, we could see approximately 400 miles. So I know it's not a human eye, but the camera is acting like an eye. So when it's low down, it can only see so far because of the obstruction. When it's up high, it could suddenly see 400 miles.
Oh?
Hello? Yeah, I'm still here, Arwijn. Could you hear me?
Yes, and I'm asking so.
I didn't hear what you said.
You're saying it in a question-like fashion.
Well, what I'm saying...
What did I say? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, sorry, I do apologise, Arwijn. Every now and then you do fade out, and so it's not me ignoring you. It's just I hadn't heard you. So basically, if I was in that Mage balloon, say 500 feet up, I could see a few miles. I go up the full height of 38 kilometres, I can see 400 miles. My eyes haven't got any better. My vision hasn't got any better. So why can I now see 400 miles, whereas I could only see, let's say, 10, 20 miles when I was down a few hundred feet?
Well, I would say that the preponderance of air, and that includes the preponderance of the thickness of the combined air you're looking through, is overall less versus the distance. So that enables you to see a little farther horizontally, because you have less atmosphere to basically look through, which causes the end of sight to become less blurred up, and thus you see farther.
But if we're by the ocean, where our ships and that were, it's nothing to do with the thickness of the atmosphere. That boat gets cut off. If you go higher, you can see more of it. In fact, if you're looking at a boat that's just beyond the horizon, so that the bottom half is hidden, let's say, rather than obstructed, let's say hidden by whatever, if I go up 100 feet, I can suddenly see all that boat. I'm actually looking through a longer and greater amount of atmosphere.
Right, but it's not going to be obstructed because of refraction. So it's not going to be obstructed bottom up because you have a clear angle to it, right?
Yes,
The
yes, you have a clear...
slant point because of your height is much further away behind it, so it's not getting obstructed at the bottom, right?
by the
What you
curve
just
of
said
the
about
water.
how far you can see high up has nothing to do with that. It's two separate effects.
Two separate effects, okay.
Yes, yes. The air thickness, right? The thinner it is, the preponderance of what you have to look through, the thinner it is, the further you can see. Has nothing to do with the bottom-up obstruction effect. That part has purely to do with an optics inherent effect, which has to do with the height of the observer versus the plane you're looking over,
Well,
surface.
um,
Two separate effects.
Okay. Arwijn, can we just go through a few... can't say that. Start again. I'd just like to go through a few super chats, if I may. Some are just general comments. Some are questions for you. I can't see anything directly insulting, which is nice. Okay, so Robert Williams super chatted $5 US. Thank you, Robert. He says, does Arwijn think that the Sumerians had it right? If so, does he realise that Sumerians believe that the sun passed into a tunnel at night?
I don't know about the Sumerian cosmology.
Not do I. Not do I. Okay. All right. Well, that was asked and he answered. Thank you, Arwijn. Mitch Goldstein, super chatted $5 US, says, no containment required. Arwijn does not understand the first thing about physics.
Yeah, that's cute.
Okay.
I think a well-studied physicist would disagree.
Ooh. Any well-studied physicists in the house? Mr. Nowpinion super chatted 119 Swedish krona. Thank you, Now. He said, we're living in such exciting times, Arwijn. You're missing out on so much by believing in flat Earth. I hope you find yourself back out of the rabbit hole in the future. All the best. Thumbs up.
That's a very, very cute projection. It's actually exactly the other way around. You don't know what you're missing by not getting into flat Earth. I don't know if they realize it, but I've mastered the globe and what it is and what you can do with it and the problems and the struggle for globe believers, like much, much better since I've gotten into flat Earth, okay? I'm much better at it. You don't know what you're missing because you don't look on the other side because you can't. That's the difference.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. or Mrs. TTF 3700 super chatted $5 Australian, upside down dollars they are, Arwijn. And he said, for your next project, stay safe and stay Mr. Sensible. Thank you, TTF. I've got quite a lot of support for the Mage project, Arwijn. People helped fund it, which is wonderful. King Ed the Fifth. Super chat $2 US said, it's going back to when we were talking about pressure in space and that. It said the pressure between the Earth and the Moon is 1.322 times 10 to the negative 11 torr. So it's not even that full 10 to the negative 17. So there is still, there was that whole thing year or two back when they said the atmosphere extends beyond the Moon. Do you remember? Basically,
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is still some out there. Scott Stratford super chatted $1.99 US. Thank you, Scott, with a big thumbs up. Thank you. And Mr. Rob Montgomery super chatted $5 US, saying a challenge for flat earthers: climb up on a peak in the Rocky Mountains and take a picture of the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, well, there's a challenge. I'm just going to refresh just in case any, because I think I saw there was another one. Yeah, there is a couple. Just bear with me a second, Arwijn. General E. Shady super chatted $2 Australian. Arwijn, vegan chef, best word salad I've ever had. Sorry, so he's having a pop at you, Arwijn. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I am a word cook, after all.
A
so-
word cook. Okay. And Jim Broughton, or Broughton, I hope I get it right, one of those two ways, Jim. Super chatted £2. Here you go. Arwyn's a bell end. Well, that was a super chat that came in, Arwyn. Actually, I must admit, my people here on the channel have been very good. It's not been grossly offensive stuff. Obviously, that was not a nice thing to say, Jim, really, but there we go. Mike71 has actually just super chatted. This will be the last one I read for a little while. Just super chatted $5 US, and it's a question to you, Arwyn. What causes a lunar eclipse? What causes a lunar eclipse? Do you have an explanation for that at all?
Well, it's a very interesting optical phenomenon, just as the moon. So yeah, what causes that to happen?
Mm.
Something does. So something apparent blocks the apparent sighting of the moon, causing the apparent eclipse, and it's very interesting. None of it is provably physical in any sort of form, though you could think of it as physical if you really insist.
Well, when in 1982, Arwyn, I know it was 1982 because I had the 1982 Yearbook of Astronomy by Patrick Moore, or with a foreword by Patrick Moore. And back in 1982, I was really, really keen on amateur astronomy. And in the back of the book, there were a set of tables for lunar and solar eclipses. And I eagerly had a look to see when will there be a solar eclipse. I'd love to see a solar eclipse. This was 1982, and it said August, I think it was August the 12th, not 100% sure, it was a date in August in 1999. So that was 17 years hence, and it told me whereabouts in the country I would have to go to be able to see it. So I planned then that I would do that, and in 1999, 17 years later, I went with my eldest daughter down to Cornwall, to Plymouth in Cornwall, and I saw that eclipse on the day predicted in a book in 1982. The only way they can do that is they know the position of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun, and a shed load of mathematics gives you a shadow, or in fact it gives the Moon passing directly in front of the Sun, giving a total solar eclipse, not an annular or a partial eclipse. And only in certain areas of the country, because back where I live, it was only a partial eclipse. So would you have any sort of explanation for anything like that?
Yeah, it's really cute that the apparent geometry sort of works out. I'm not even going to go into the details because that's just going to be a nitpicking fight that's to no end. I'll leave that sort of thing to QE and all that and the guys. But
okay, I mean, I would have thought it's pretty good evidence that if
nothing physical that you can prove about it, even though it does match some presumed geometrical models based on presupposition. It's very funny how that all works out. But it doesn't need to be spheres in outer space in order for that to work, because the sky clock, as it were, the globe of the heavens, all the celestial lights, they have this weird cyclical function to them. That's why some people call it the sky clock, and it is very persistent and predictable once you figure out the cyclical patterns.
Right, stop that.
They don't
Silly.
have to be objects in order for people to be able to predict where certain types of sightings are going to be.
Well, how do you know? I'm not asking you for the maths, but could Flat Earth explain and be able to make a prediction 17 years in advance to the day, to the area of the plane where an event like that is going to occur? I'm not asking you for the maths, but is that something that you think that Flat Earth theory can do?
Theory? Well, I presume that there are a couple of flat earthers that are trying to work out like how they presume it to be, and that it would work in some kind of model setup, right? But it all depends on how they're going to approach the entire situation. As long as they're holding on to a Euclidean presumption about specific locations of the sun and moon hovering over a disk, yeah, they might run into certain problems when trying to use that model for predictions, right? Because they aren't. They're not Euclidean objects in specific positions, even though the angles do work out with a disk model like that.
Excuse me.
Just like as they can work out in a sphere model in the setup that heliocentrism uses, right? So,
Okay. I think in I could be wrong, 1992, I think there was another solar eclipse that went across Europe. I know because I was visiting Hungary and I just missed it. I think it was 92. But if you take because obviously they say, look, you're going to get a total eclipse here, you're going to get a total eclipse here, and a total eclipse here in this line. Over there, you're not. You're only going to get a partial. Now, if you take that line and show it on a globe, it's a straight line across the globe. If you put it on a map, it shows a curve because it's a curved surface flattened out to a map. So that shadow suddenly is travelling in a strange arc.
I don't know. It all depends on what kind of map you're using. You know, maps are projections anyway. So it all
maps
depends.
are projections, yes.
Yeah, all of them.
Of a globe. What I'm saying is, if I take a globe and you took I'm trying to think of the best way to do it. Let's say, you know, those laser levels, just to draw a straight line. If you use that laser level and burnt a line on that globe, it would look like a straight line. If you then turn that globe's surface into a flat map as a projection, you'll end up with an arc. And that's what happens with the path of the shadow of the moon in a solar eclipse. It follows an arc.
How about a rectangular projection? Pretty sure it's going to go in a straight line path over there.
I'm wondering if I can
see on TV every time they show it with a map projection, right? They don't show it on a globe, they show you the rectangular map.
Right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a quick look for lunar shadow paths or something. Because there must be an image with a nice map on it. Well, I'll have a look, see if I can find one. Because there are images that oh no, that's not one. I've seen maps before that show all the let's say all the eclipses for the past 100 years or whatever it is, and when you see them on there, all different curves on that flat map, which is a projection of a globe. I'm not.
Yeah,
do you
the
know?
disk map, right? Yeah, the disk map. So how about the rectangular map?
Well, what I was going to say, Arwijn, it's actually quite an interesting thought because people talked about solar or lunar eclipses at all, but I've not heard anyone really talk about the path of the shadows as an evidence of anything. So I'm probably going to look into that and see about doing a video at some time. But I'm pretty sure that, you know...
Oh, cool. When you do that, please also make sure to address why the parallel incoming sun rays cause light to converge and diverge at the same time when the moon is eclipsing the sun. That would be cool, because that's what they're talking about over at the Flat Earth debates. I'm not particularly interested in all this stuff because to me it's all light-based phenomenon, right? All of it, eclipses, yeah, it's super mysterious. It's all very fascinating. If you'd realize that the freaking sunlight even is just purely holographic in nature and it doesn't actually work from it's not the same with every observer, right? So shadows are cast in different places depending on the position of the observer, all that stuff. Sun is freaking weird. I'm much more interested in that sort of thing than what some specific phenomenon like a solar eclipse is casting in its shadow, because it's all light-based phenomenon anyway. It's freaking weird. If you're going to go there, I'm pretty sure, you're not gonna like approach it. You know, you would be approaching the moon supposedly if you would go directly into the direction as where the sun is eclipsed, and then you would see the sun coming past it or whatever. It's going to be a weird sighting, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to actually look like you're approaching the moon and then the sun coming from out of it, you know? Who says it's even the moon getting in front of it? You know, when you have supposed balls, you shine a light against them, they're not just perfectly dark velvet pizzas, like a hole. You know, that's not what spherical objects do when you shine a light upon them from the back. That's not how they look like. So it's all pretty damn mysterious. And yeah, I'm not gonna even get into the supposed geometrics of how it is when you presuppose that they're all balls. They're just fascinating, light-based phenomenon to me. Phenomena.
Phenomena. Well, what I'll say then, I mean, you want to move on from that. Okay, I would say it's all, apart from some fancy maths, very straightforward with 3 balls, one the size of the sun, one the size of the moon, one the size of the earth, with the moon rotating around at a certain angle and a certain speed, and then you can predict where a shadow falls. And it's as simple as that, you know, with no claimed... Well, I mean, okay, I was going to say no claimed holograms, etc. You mentioned holograms, and I know that you were talking about that on your stream, the stream which I joined in 2 days ago, weren't you? What I would say is if there's a hologram, what is producing it, and producing it on what? Is there some sort of screen or what?
I don't know. I'm just calling it a hologram because of the meaning of the word hologram. Holo, image, gram is an image. Holo, light-based. It's light-based. It's a light-based phenomenon, right? Purely light-based. There's no physical thing. It's just something you see, and it involves light, which of course is the main factor in observation in the first place. So it's all light-based phenomena. And I don't know why it works the way they do. It's really mysterious. I've just noticed that any traces of evidence that they have a physical nature besides the visuals themselves is completely lacking. Right? They don't abide by perspective. They don't abide by any physical typicalities. It's just visual display.
Arwijn, I'm just going to drop you a DM. There was a super chat that came in from the Snark, who's asked you to read it. I think hopefully it looks to me, I don't know Dutch, it looks to me innocuous, but he'd like you to read that out if you're okay with that. I've just dropped.
Oh wait.
Yeah, I've just DM'd it to you, so you can see it.
Yeah, let me. Harmless.
So, do you want to read it out? It's just I can read it out. I can try, but I'll get it wrong.
I can't scroll back enough.
You can't scroll back enough. There, I've just sent it to you again. Otherwise,
over there.
Yeah, on Discord.
Yeah, he said groeten aan alle Nederlanders in the chat, which means greetings to all Dutch people in the chat.
Well, thank you very much for that super chat, Snark. Much appreciated. And thank you, Arwijn, for reading it. And I definitely got that wrong if I try to read it. Hugh Jars has super chatted $5 Australian, beg your pardon, asking, why does the South Celestial Pole exist if we live on a flat Earth? And he's apparently provided a link to a short video of it in a post just below. But so, have you got any explanation for a southern point of stellar rotation in the night sky?
Well, why does the holographic globe of the heavens that seems to rotate apparently around our apparent position have a north point of its axis of apparent rotation and a southern point of its apparent axis of rotation? I don't know. It's just that's the way we see it.
I think
why is it rotating? You know, I don't know.
Okay, but I think the point is, never mind why it's rotating. If you have 2 points of rotation, it's got to be Earth has got to be a 3-dimensional shape. It cannot be a flat plane.
Why?
Why?
Because apparent light-based phenomenon in the sky seem to compose themselves as a sphere of light to us.
But the stars the stars as they're moving, no matter where you are, the distance between, let's say you've got a star pattern of, I don't know, Orion or whatever, it stays as one fixed pattern throughout the entire rotation period. It's rotating around either the Polaris or Sigma-Octanis roughly in the south, but it doesn't sort of separate and then meet up again. It stays absolutely fixed. And I do have a very nice clip. Right, I'm just showing a very nice clip. It's just coming up on the screen now, Arwijn, in a few seconds. It's an equatorial mount that's fixed on a position in the sky. It looks like part of the Milky Way, so that rather than the telescope being still and showing the stars rotate, it's fixed on the stars, so instead you can see the Earth rotate. But those stars are just, in effect, a backdrop. Can you see it? Has it come up yet?
Yes, I've seen it.
And I presume you've probably seen that one before. I think it's beautiful because it really makes you think. It's very different than the normal star trails one. So would you have any sort of explanation for that?
Yeah. The
Okay.
apparent globe of the heavens rotates around the observer. Yeah, and if you match a camera to a fixed point on that globe of rotation, right, that apparent site, yeah, then it will seem like the Earth is spinning underneath because the camera is turning with it.
Yep.
With the apparent rotation of the apparent globe of lights that
Right.
surrounds us.
So we agree that the reason, the camera, or the telescope in this case, is rotating, pointing at one fixed point, which is the thing which is apparently moving. I think the point is, it depends on your reference frame. And you're sat in your garden at night looking at the stars. It feels as though looks as though the stars are moving. If you fix the camera on it, it looks, as in that video, as though you are moving. So just from a clip of film, you
So,
can't tell. But
Very nice. Have you ever seen somebody sit on a swing, like attached to a disco ball with light shining on that disco ball? Yeah, to that person it's gonna seem like, oh look, there is a globe of steady lights surrounding me and the Earth is rotating around me and the lights are in a steady position. Yeah, that's what happens when you basically
I can-
fixate on a specific type of reference frame, and that is what that camera did. It doesn't mean that the Earth is rotating underneath it. It just matches the apparent motion of the apparent globe of the heavens, which are lights only.
I understand the optical effect you're talking about. Now, if the stars were as though projected on a sphere, and we're on the inside of a sphere, yeah, it could be the sphere that's turning or the Earth that's turning. It depends which way you're fixating on. You're right, but it's not like a flat surface, the inside of a sphere or whatever, because some stars are nearer than others, and you even get parallax with the nearest stars. So you can tell that they're closer to us than further ones. And then, of course, you get galaxies. And if you took something like the Hubble Deep Field, the Hubble Space Telescope Deep Field images, where they stared for days or weeks at a pretty blank part of the sky, they suddenly saw billions more galaxies. So
Yeah, that's a really cute image that supposed telescope made. It's really cute. Yeah.
what do you mean? You're just denying it?
Yeah.
You're
No,
just
I think-
denying it? Okay, well, I suppose that's honest.
Yeah, I think it's rendered. Yeah, I know.
Rendered?
Yeah, rendered.
Wow. So you're basically saying that image, at least, is a lie. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate
Well, if
your
you called
honesty
it
and
an
you're being
image,
clear about
that's
that.
already enough indication. If it was some kind of a photograph, that would be different. But they are images, indeed. You got that correct.
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah, because you can't naturally, through actual optics and real-world sights, observe that. You can only render it, and then any output of that rendering would have to be classified as an image. 'Cause
So
you can't call it a
if I-
photograph if it
if I-
actually works.
If I popped round to your house with my phone and took took an image of you, is that a photo of you, Arwijn?
If you're gonna make it with a camera, then it's
I-
a photo.
Well, okay, with either my phone or other digital camera. Is that
If
an
you're
image?
making
Is that a
photo-
photo of you?
For making a photo with an optical medium-based device that make photos, yeah, it's gonna be a photo.
That's what the Hubble Space Telescope is.
That is what it's supposed to be. Is what they say it is. I don't believe those people at all.
It's a bloody great mirror and amazing optics in
Really?
an
I don't
environment
believe
where you've not got any atmospheric
believe it.
aberrations,
I don't
staring at a
believe
dark part of the sky, gathering light for hours or days, and it's no different than your phone in it, or your digital camera. It converts it to data. Just like I could email you a photo. I'm not emailing you a photo. I'm emailing you a string of noughts and ones in a JPEG file, and then you convert it with your computer onto the screen, and bingo, there's that picture I took of you. That's all it is.
Cool. Well, maybe if at some point I had the luxury and the will and the care for it, I might actually try it out myself if I could inspect every aspect of that device. But until that time, I'm just not going to trust the people that are handing us these images at all. It's very simple.
So you wouldn't trust any images from the Hubble or from
Yes,
NASA
from the
at all?
big ones, from the major institutional telescopes. Yeah, that's right.
So which ones would you trust? Because there's some pretty damn good amateur astronomer photographs.
Well, and that's fine, if they're repeatable.
Yeah, well, you probably could repeat. You could
If it would
repeat.
be the same device and have the same sighting, then I would have the same sightings. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, you would. The problem is there's only one Hubble Space Telescope because it's fucking expensive. You'd need rather a lot of money to duplicate that. But you could, given enough time, expertise, and money.
Hey, well, I already said if I'd had the opportunity, I would probably try to check it out if I could do an oversight of such a process, and then see what comes out of it.
Here's a question for you, Arwijn. If someone said to you, "Hey, Arwijn, I'm paying for you, if you wish, a ticket to go on a Virgin Galactic flight or SpaceX flight, or whatever," would you go on that?
No.
You wouldn't. Is that because of the risks, or the physical risks, or what? I mean, I would jump at the chance. I'll be
I
honest.
don't trust these people.
You don't trust them.
No.
What?
Like,
That they
why-
then end up getting you killed? You mean?
Like they're not going to. That's absolutely preposterous, and that type of question every time is just preposterous because that would never happen. Ever.
Yeah. Listen. I'm trying to be fair. I'm not.
A UFO landed and a bunch of aliens came and collected you, right? To show
Does-
you the Earth globe.
Does
And
it
they're
involve anal probing? No, listen.
never gonna happen. So
Arwijn, it was just a hypothetical question. If someone said to me, "Do you want to go up on a flight in Virgin Galactic?" I would say yes, and it was just an out of interest. Arwijn, would you want to? And you said no, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong answer to that. I just wondered if you would. I would love to.
I don't trust these people. Hey, I'd love to do some super high exploration. Okay, I'm actually curious as to the nature of the container. There's a lot of questions I have. Like, I have projects in my mind, but I'm not gonna trust one of these established groups that are helping the world to pretend that the Earth is a globe with the supposed space exploits. Like, I don't trust them for that sort of thing. Whatever they're gonna do, they're just gonna show me whatever they want to show me, and it's probably gonna get canceled and all that shit, and it's gonna cost me a shitload of money, and whatever's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen.
So you think
So-
that they would con you or trick you?
Out there, but not with these people.
That they would con you or trick you in some way? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're not going to take the effort to do that to get to that point, but yeah.
No, we're
if they-
we're talking.
I would absolutely suspect that they're going to trick me somehow.
Okay. But of course, there's an awful lot of people who have been up in space now, and there's masses of people who work for the space programs. Hell, we've had one guy on here, Jim Skipper. He was a senior NASA test engineer, and he was involved from the Mercury space program through the Apollo program and right through to the space shuttle program. And he worked, in the test departments. He even was one of the test subjects for a Mercury spacesuit and sat inside a vacuum chamber, taken down to as close as we get to the vacuum of space, and as close as we could get to the frigid temperatures there. I've spoken to that man. He has been on here. People have interacted.
Cute. That's cute.
You keep saying things like that. What do you mean by it's cute? Do you just think do you think I'm lying? Or do you think he's lying and just tricked me?
I think you're very well willingly believing in absolutely preposterous lies, yes. And
I've seen photos of him.
I'm not patient enough to basically get into that deep suspense of disbelief.
Well, I have spoken to him. I have photos of him. And he actually found a YouTube video of an astronaut visiting for some test or other, be fitted for a spacesuit or whatever, and he happens to be there in the background. Background. He's talking to the astronaut. You can see him. It's the same guy, And if you spoke to him, I'm not sure of his exact age, late 70s, early 80s. He is such a nice guy and so knowledgeable.
Really cute.
Really cute. Okay, all right. So where is your model, Arwijn?
It's in my head. I'm still working on it. Because there's all kinds of uncertainties. So yeah, in the face of the uncertainties, what I get to do is basically branch out what the possibilities could be, and they branch all over the place. And I talk about that on my show on a regular basis. All the vantage points, what could possibly be, based on what we know and what we could find out to be on the way of discovering.
I actually do think that you're missing out on so much, Arwijn. I really do.
Oh, you're wrong. I'm not missing out on anything.
Aren't you?
I've taken this ride where you're at right now. Not as far as this, though, but in another way much further. And it's an absolute endless dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. Nothing ever happens. The entire industry is designed to stall everything and everyone for eternity and to make you spend your own time thinking and fantasizing and dreaming about it without anything ever happening. Other than just, encouragement and, just bring it back, talk about it again. Yeah, that's what it is.
No,
It's a waste of I wanted to do space projects. I wanted a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. They don't actually do anything.
Well, of course they do, and you can actually apply for jobs. You have to be highly qualified and very, very lucky. But you say they don't need do anything. I mean, I'm in a position that I accept the accepted science that the Earth is a sphere, which means with gravity and an atmospheric gradient caused by gravity, a moon that orbits around, which matches what we can see, a sun that's 93.
Except Mercury.
Sorry, a sun that's 93 million miles away, so you can so you can predict eclipses of both the sun and eclipses of the moon, galaxies and stars, and the beauty is it all ties up. And the thing with gravity and the way it was calculated, they used that to predict where Neptune would be. They looked there and they found it.
Yeah, it's really cute. It doesn't tie up. I just said the orbit of Mercury cannot even be explained through any gravitational theory that's out there. None of it. It's just unexplained, left open. And that's not some mystery about what is very, very far out there. That's supposedly right around the door, right around a corner in our solar system. It cannot be calculated. It cannot be explained. It cannot be calculated. Okay, there is no calculation model to explain the supposed orbit of Mercury. There are no orbital mechanics that can explain why Mercury is sighted the way it is in the heliocentric model. So yeah, it doesn't all match.
I know
Probably
that,
forgot about that.
Sorry, say again.
But you probably forgot about that. Brought up on the table just a week ago.
Sorry, brought up on the table. What are you talking about?
Flat Earth debates. It was Brumpus brought it up actually.
I don't watch all of those. I certainly don't watch all of. I certainly don't watch all of Nathan Oakley's. I pop in and watch about 2 minutes of 8.
By not following the Flat Earth debates, because there's a lot of very good information that comes past there.
There's a lot of good material there's a lot of good material to debunk and laugh at, Arwijn.
If that's what you think it is, that's cute. But I think you're missing out on a lot, though.
Well, I'm missing out on Nathan Oakley basically saying that crepuscular waves, crepuscular rays, are showing that the sunlight is diverging, without seem to realise that, for instance, if you stood on a railway track with those parallel rails, they appear to diverge, but they don't in reality. They just appear. It's an optical effect. I'm quite happy to miss out on stupid like that, Arwijn.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the shadows that actually come forth from these divergent rays show that it's not just a physical thing going away into the distance. It's actually things that cast shadows sideways, right? Sideways. Not you're seeing it from the back and it just is spaced out to the side, right? So actual divergence, not perspective.
Yeah, but if you have, I've seen diagrams or whatever, but if you've got a load of metal rods that are all absolutely parallel, and then you point them all towards you, some will appear to be going above you, some below, some to the left, some to the right. That's perspective. That's what happens with parallel lines when they're headed towards you.
That's right, but that's not what divergent sun rays do, because they also cast shadows that go sideward.
Because it's on a sphere. I'm not.
If the sun is all parallel, then it would all come from a very specific angle. Every sun shadow would be in a very specific angle, and it's not, because the light is actually divergent. It's one of the big mysteries, because it's all holographic in the first place, right? It's not even a thing like a light bulb hanging over the Earth that close by. It's not diverging because of that. It's diverging because it's an entirely holographic phenomenon. The very light in all its majesty from the sun.
The sun
is non-local holographic.
The sun is not a point source of light. There's the top of the top, bottom, left, and right faces, and light from every one of those points goes in every direction, which I heard Mr. Oakley singularly failing to let Rumpus explain the other day. That's what gets me. Is not whether he disagrees with Rumpus, not even if he swears at Rumpus, but the fact he didn't even let Rumpus get a word in edgeways at all.
Well, sometimes Nathan's patience is a little thin like that.
Sometimes.
And other times, hey, Rumpus gets plenty of showtime these days.
Well,
Nathan's grown more patient, but it's not all.
Nathan's grown more patient.
Let's talk about personal antics of other people. No, that's not what I came here for.
No, I'm not asking you for your views on him, so that's fair. That is absolutely fair enough. Going back to this thing about holograms, and do you think the moon is a hologram as well as the sun?
Celestial lights are. Because
we mentioned, that was something I was trying to mention in your side chat. And credit to you, Arwijn. I did say at the top of the stream, I explained how we got sort of hooked up and how you were very polite and interacting with me when I was in your side chat. So if the moon is a hologram, how could you have things like the shadows of the mountains and the edges of the craters? because a hologram
They're
is
not
a light.
than edges of craters, and it's all a light-based spectacle. Just seems like it is. Mountains and craters. I don't know even what that is, why it looks like that, why it seems to have this kind of shadow play, apparent shadow play to it. But I'm pretty sure it's not light being reflected off an object that's in a Euclidean location.
But
Just a light-based phenomenon with very mysterious elements to it.
well, if you
Yeah.
had an object at the size that the moon is believed to be, at the distance the moon is believed to be, going around the Earth, at the speed and distance it's believed to, then that exactly matches up with what I'm showing on the screen, which is the phases of the moon. Quite plainly, a sphere.
But it's not, though.
What? Not what? Not a sphere.
That's right.
Well, how come you can see about, I forget exactly, 56% of the surface or whatever? Basically, you see more than half a sphere. That image is libration. And during the course of a month, due to the rotation and the precession, you can see around the curve, more than 50% of it. It's a sphere. You're looking at that and you can't say that's a sphere. Look how that shadow travels across. Now imagine you're holding a beach ball with a light source.
Real too, like the object that they were supposed to be showing.
I'm sorry, Arwyn. I cut.
Light-based, so
Arwyn, can you
it's a
repeat?
really mysterious thing, isn't it? The moon. It's really mysterious. It very much suggests some kind of weird kind of sphere, whatever. If you look at it,
It's almost as if it was a sphere.
Lunatic. That's why they used to call people and ramble on about the weird nature of the moon lunatics.
Perhaps we should
'Cause
call them
it is very
hologram
mysterious,
ticks
and
then.
it's right there in your face almost every evening, right? Yeah.
Well, looking at that, and we've had other people like Mr. Thrive and Survive. He was arguing with someone else, saying that it's not a sphere and so on. Otherwise, if you held a ball up, you'd get the same patterns of light and shadow from the sun. And the other guy who was with him, when it was pointed out that if you hold that sphere up so it's roughly in line with the moon, you will get those same patterns, the other guy was honest enough to go out and do it, found it was the case, and retracted it. Mr. Thrive and Survive Rich was not. He just ignored it and didn't acknowledge the fact that he'd been shown to be wrong. The other guy, I do forget his name, which is a shame.
Whatever. I've done it myself. It's bullshit. Doesn't look like that at all.
So you've held a ball out at arm's length.
In light, yeah, it doesn't look like that at all.
You've held it out in the direction. So if the moon's
shadow
up,
is much more gradiated.
Well, yeah, we're in an atmosphere.
Cut off shadow. That's not how shadows on balls look at all.
Well, it's two things.
always
We are
radiating.
in an atmosphere, Arwyn. The moon is in a very, very hard
To do
vacuum.
with an atmosphere.
Of course it
Talking about
is.
the shadow,
Light
it should be
scattering.
Radiated. When you shine a light on a ball,
Yeah.
it's gradiated. It's not cut off. That's not how shadows on balls look at all. It's always gradiated from light to dark. Always. That's what happens when you shine a light against a ball. Doesn't look like the moon shadow at all.
But we are in an atmosphere. Light bounces around.
It's light shining on a ball. Atmosphere or no atmosphere doesn't matter.
Well, it does. If you've got atmosphere that's bending,
Balls
refracting.
have hard cut shadows when you shine lights on them. They don't.
Sorry, please say that again. I did miss what you said.
Balls, when you shine a light on them, don't have hard cut edges in their shadow like the moon does. That doesn't happen.
That moon is quarter of the size of the Earth. Where the Terminator is. Actually, let me just try and bring that back up again.
Is it a ball or isn't it a ball?
Sorry, second. Is the moon a ball? Yes, the moon is
Right.
pretty much a ball.
Well, when you shine a light on a ball, it doesn't have a hard cut edge of a shadow.
Now look
when
at-
you shine a light on the ball, it doesn't. It's always a gradiated
Yeah.
shadow.
Now,
Because it's on a circular surface.
yeah, Arwyn,
So the shadow radiates from light to dark.
it's
It doesn't
coming up
cut
on the.
off
Yeah,
like the moon shadow does. How many times?
can you see the stream, Arwyn? I've got that moon back up there again. look as that terminator comes across. You've got a gradiated, you have a gradient between the dark and the light. Boom. Barely?
Yeah,
well, that's a quarter of the size of the Earth. That will be hundreds and hundreds of miles long.
When you shine a light on a ball, gradient goes very far. It's not a hard cut edge. It gradiates for like a quarter of the radius, okay? That's what happens when you shine a light on a ball.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you can see
like
happening there.
At all. It fades from the shadow to the light part for almost a quarter of the radius. That's how shadows on balls actually look. Not like this moon sighting.
So you're saying that if you went out and that moon was up in the sky and you held a ball up, that you would not get the same pattern, because you will each and every time.
Every time I tested it out, it doesn't look like that at all.
I'd like to see you video that. Honestly, I would like to see you video that. I know you do live streams. Is it every day, Arwijn, or most days?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you ever do sort of standalone videos for evidence this or debunk that?
I've done exactly what I said live on the show with a ball, showing it.
Oh, on the show. You do your stuff on your live streams.
How much space of the radius of the actual sphere the shadow takes up. Yeah. It's not a hard cut edge like this.
That's not a hard cut edge. We can see that in front of us right now.
It's a hard cut edge. The shadow is not taking up a gradient that is a quarter of the radius of this presumed ball.
Okay.
It's a hard cut edge. Now it's a bit wobbly, a bit fuzzy on that hard cut edge.
Boom.
It's not radiated over the ball,
listen,
like a shadow on a ball would.
Now, Arwijn, you could say, no, it's not. I could say, yes, it is. You said, no, it's not. Well, we both have said that. Shall we leave that there? People can see the video. You have said how you think it is. I have said how I think it is. We'll leave them to decide that. Is that fair enough?
Fine. Want to show some more balls of the outer space? It's just you dangling balls in front of everybody's face, saying that they're balls. And yeah,
I think you spent too much time with a certain person, but there we go. Right, I've got a couple more super chats. Mike71 said, "What causes a lunar eclipse?" Oh no, actually we've had that. I beg your pardon. All right, and Hugh Jars, a madman says, for £5 sterling, thank you, a madman. He says, "Our model works. Where is yours?"
Well, your model doesn't work. It's full of gaps, and every time it's pointed out, it's ignored. Like, for example, the physics of the orbital mechanics of Mercury. It can't be calculated, right? Yeah, that's like this big 1/8 gap in the entire heliocentric model of our very solar system. That doesn't work, cannot be calculated. Yeah, your model is not working. It's broken. It's incomplete. It's a work in progress, not complete.
Yeah, science is a work in progress.
That's not complete. That's right.
Yeah,
There's giant gaps.
Science is a work in progress. That is the definition of science, Arwijn.
It's not complete.
Arwijn, we never ever prove anything. Science doesn't prove things. It's the best explanation. It's a work in progress. We await evidence that contradicts it, or a better theory that can explain it more completely, in which case we ditch what we got and move on to that.
I just like to address the planetary sized gap in the model, which makes it absolutely incomplete. Right, it's just not this minor touch that's slightly wrong. There's like an entire thing that cannot be calculated, doesn't fit in the entirety of the model, cannot even be accounted for with physics or math, right? Yeah, it's a big giant hole in the model. It's not something to be worked out. It's a big giant gap that cannot be fixed to this day. Right? No. Even though that information and everything involved with it has been out there for at least 100 years. So good luck.
Okay. Now, I know there was an issue or a discrepancy with the orbit of Mercury going back however many years. Now, I understand that is it Einstein's theories of relativity come into it, I think. And I'll have to say that's getting beyond my knowledge. But my understanding was straight Newtonian mechanics couldn't explain it. But when relativity came along, it either does, either completely or to a certain extent. I don't know. And I'm being honest, Arwijn, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But
very quickly in basically 2 sentences, okay? You're correct. Yeah, the Newtonian mechanics can't explain the orbit of Mercury. Now, the Einsteinian mechanics for orbits, there's a bit of a problem with that as well, because Einstein's equations can't calculate for more than one source of attraction within its model. So Einstein cannot calculate the orbit of Mercury either, right? So it's a mathematical conundrum, something that cannot be solved. Yet it's right there staring in our faces, right? It's a planet that cannot be calculated. It cannot be calculated in the model that you all assume to be there.
But my understanding with again, this is me reaching back in my memory with the discrepancy with the Newtonian mechanics. It's not like oh my goodness, Mercury's not there, it's right on the other side of the sun. We're talking about a tiny I mean, there was an error, but a tiny error that it couldn't explain. It's not. We're not talking massive.
Yeah, it is massive. It's a massive error, because if it's a tiny error, that means it shouldn't be there, because over the preponderance of time which the solar system is supposed to be out there, that means that Mercury should be absolutely gone.
No,
it's gone.
What it means is Mercury is always absolutely where it's supposed to be. The problem is the explanation that the formulae couldn't account for it exactly. Truth Nerds super chat.
We know the circular path. We know the circular path of Mercury. We know where it is across the heavens in relation to the other heavenly bodies. We know
it's an ellipse. Every orbit is an ellipse.
The path of Mercury is set, so we know that, right? It's just that when you apply the gravity mechanics of any sort to it, that's when it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. It doesn't fit. It never fits, right? That's the problem, right? It's not a little indiscrepancy. It just doesn't fit. It shouldn't be there according to gravity mechanics of any sort. It can't be there.
I think it's due to the curvature of space-time and having such a massive mass close by. But Arwijn, I'm going to have to say, I'm aware that there's an error. My understanding is it's a small error, but an error nevertheless with Newtonian. I thought that Einsteinian relativity had explained most or all of it, but there my knowledge ceases. So I'm not going to make shit up, basically. Okay, so I can't.
That's pretty sensible, because it didn't.
Okay, all right. Well, let's.
It can't be calculated with Einsteinian mechanics.
All right, now maybe
Einstein just has a concept for gravity. It can't act. Einstein's not too great when it comes to orbital mechanics, right? That's why Newtonian mechanics are still used, right? They just don't work out with Mercury. But the problem is with Einsteinian mechanics, they don't actually deal with real world things. It's just conceptual. So it doesn't actually provide any real model that could fit in there, because it's purely conceptual. Everything Einstein did is all conceptual.
Well, so you said that the Newtonian
can't be calculated.
Newtonian mechanics works for all the other planets and so on, but
it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't, does it? Okay.
Wait, Newtonian? Yes. Sorry. Yes.
I was going to say that requires gravity. Now we've got a bunch of super chats have flooded in that little discourse between us. Web Bard, new member, thank you, Web, has just super chatted €2, saying, let him explain it. He knows or knew a lot about the globe. And Mr. Second Best Bob super chatted £5, saying, ask Arwijn why he lets Nathan Oakley talk down to him so much. I'll leave that to you if you want to answer, Arwijn. Why do you let Nathan Oakley talk down to you so much?
I don't really. I've stood up to Nathan. But sometimes, sometimes I'm always present there on the show every time. And sometimes, I don't know, people get kind of annoyed with my presence. And other times they completely embrace it. So it's just the swing of the pendulum. It's the chemistry of the crowd. And yeah, sometimes Nathan is a little shy, like doesn't really give me any space. And other times he gives me all the space I want. So
Okay.
I have no problem with him. He's been extremely complimentary and respectful and very, yeah, just he watches my show and he can actually feed back to me about things that I've talked about. So I have no problem with Nathan Oakley whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, Nathan Oakley is ace.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Arwyn, for answering that and opening up about that. Cheers. And excuse me, Jim Broughton has just super chatted £2, £2 sterling, saying, "Who actually benefits from saying the Earth is a globe? Why would they lie, Arwyn?"
Mind control and a lot of money. Lots of it. Biggest budgets in history. And hey, if you can give an imagery and a fantasy to a whole group of people out there that are willingly embracing it and can't really figure out why it's wrong, then you got them as a puppet. Basically, you can tell them whatever story, the story that you understand what it is and they don't, and they'll just with wide eyes follow you around and think you're awesome and brilliant. That's what they do. It's a priesthood.
But if this was
A
a
lot of
dozen
money
people,
and a lot of power
if
and a lot of respect, priesthood power
okay,
and
well,
awe that
Arwyn,
inspire.
I could
Which is bred within the entire education system to do that.
I could entertain an idea like that if we were talking a dozen people, 50 people, 100 people. We are talking tens of thousands of people, and so many people involved in things like the space program and astronomy and all the other sciences that have a bearing on this. They would all have to be in on it. Not
No,
a
they don't.
single person grassing the others up. And what's more, have kept this up for about 2,000 years or more.
No, that's nonsense.
Sorry, it's
Not
nonsense.
everybody has to know about it at all. That's the whole interesting thing about compartmentalization and the priesthood need to know basis, right? So a lot of people working for NASA and even that work on the supposed rocket launches and all that, that are all building things that are operating systems and they're just doing
Right, stop
their
that.
function
Silly.
that they have gotten.
don't get
And they're
it,
very
do you?
happy and proud
You
of it, and
don't.
they think it's all real, right? A lot of the people that work for NASA do things that they think are real, and then there's the people that actually, are behind the real controls that are setting up the show for the believers, for the outsiders, and for the people operating within NASA that believe it.
Well,
Right?
obviously,
It's a giant theater.
running stuff
Not
like NASA and building the kit costs an awful lot of money, and all those people. What the government could do is just put up income tax and pocket some of it. Why go through all that charade? But I think we're getting a bit off track from our general chat. But yeah, so that was Jim. Charlie Welch, super chatted $5 US, saying, "Any flat earthers ever intend on applying their amazing secret knowledge, or are they content just to beg for money and chat BS on YouTube forever?" So yeah, we got all these flat earthers, yourself, Nathan, and no end of other people who think it's all a lie and so on. So why don't they do something with it rather than just talk about it on YouTube?
Doing something.
I'm sorry, Arwyn, we lost the beginning of what you said.
I said we are doing something. We're figuring it out. We're mastering physics. We're figuring out the mind control. We're figuring out psychology. We are figuring out how proficiently people have been taught to fool themselves and don't even realize it, and how to recognize all of that. Right? That's what I'm doing. I'm diving into psychology. So I never do anything without it having some productive yield in some form. I don't allow myself to waste my time.
Okay.
But just because other people don't see the value in what I do doesn't mean that I can't find any value in what I do.
All right. Ilya Lates, a super chat of $4.99, saying, "Mr. S, relativity explained Mercury's orbit over 100 years ago. Let Arwyn know he is a
No, it doesn't.
hold on. Let Arwyn know he is a century behind. By all means, answer it, Arwyn. I don't have a problem with that, but let me finish it first. So let Arwyn know he is a century behind.
Bullshit. That's just complete nonsense, right? I explained very specifically that it is all about the gravitation mechanics, right? Relativity doesn't explain shit, right? Doesn't have anything to do. We're dealing with gravity mechanics and orbits that this Mercury thing is supposed to have right around the sun, right?
Yes.
Relativity doesn't have anything to do with it. It's very simple. The Newtonian mechanics don't work on it, right?
But I think the
And
point
Einstein
is that
gravity mechanics, can I finish?
Yes,
And
yes,
Einstein
yeah.
gravity mechanics can't work on it either, right? Because it doesn't have any mechanics. It's purely conceptual, and it can't calculate for more than one body of attraction, which is what is kind of essential in understanding orbital mechanics, right? So it can't even do it, right? So this is just complete nonsense what he said.
all right, okay. Another person. I like the name. Why kick a moo cow number 855? I like that. Super chatted $5 Australian. Thank you, Y. Saying, Arwyn, how does day and night work on a flat Earth? Please give me a science lesson. Well, we don't have time for a full lesson now, but can you give any brief explanation of how day and night works over a flat Earth? Do you know?
During the day, the sun comes out, right? And all this light basically comes into being over the Earth. And then during the night, yeah, it goes away and grows kind of cold.
But what about things like, well, you know, seasons and 24-hour sun in the winter in the north, extreme north, and 24-hour sun in the summer in the extreme south?
I don't know, seasons are very complicated, but I know at least that the angular path of the sun does have an influence on it, although the very output of the sun also changes with the season. The direct light that comes from it pretty abruptly changes from one day to another. Every season it will change, so that has something to do with it. And also the angular location, how much daylight and sun is basically exposed on the Earth, and all of that contributes to the seasonal systems. But it is very complicated what's going on. So,
Well, of course, the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees, and which gives us the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, and the winter in the north is when the sun is only comes up to a lower amount and is shining through a shallower angle, so you're getting less solar energy. Hence, it's colder. But there we go, which works on a sphere.
yeah, well, it works on a flat Earth just as well.
Okay.
That sun, the angle changes, right? So how the sun, how much of it is visible on the Earth during the day, that changes, and then there's less energy introduced, and then it becomes colder and it gets winter. And it goes the other way around, more sun, and then it becomes summer. And also the very output nature of the sun changes seasonally, right? Even on both sides of the Earth, right? North of the equator and south of the equator. It's different types of energy output of the very sun, and it doesn't match, right? Two output of sun, completely different types simultaneously.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
obviously we're going to disagree with this, and these questions are covering all sorts of things. Global Mom, hello Global Mom, not seen you for a little while. Super chatted $5 US saying, Arwyn, you do know that we don't know everything about the solar system or the Earth. We are learning, and for your own mental health, ditch Oakley. I think that last bit, unless you wanted to make any sort of comment on that, Arwyn, that last bit, Mum, I'm going to ignore. Okay, I'm not sure it's appropriate to ask anyone via a super chat. You know, I don't have a problem with you asking, but I'm not going to put that to Arwyn. So Arwyn, so you do know that we don't know everything about the solar system or the Earth. We are learning. Any comments on that?
That's right. Yeah. You don't have a model. I know.
Well, I'd say we got a model that perhaps covers, 99.9%, but we got to keep working to get the rest.
No, it's more in the direction of, I guess, 90 percent when it comes to an entire planet which orbit cannot be explained through any mechanics, right? That's pretty sizable. It's not 99.9%. It's pretty roughly 90%, which makes it complete failure. It's not a complete model. There's parts that are absolutely unexplained. There's no indiscrepancies. It's just completely broken, incomplete, a failure.
But you know that if, let's say, I have a look at all these equations and bang, what we need to do is put in a plus sign there, and suddenly we get Mercury perfect. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that's the case. That's still not 100%, because there is still going to be stuff that might be a much, much closer explanation. It covers Mercury as well, but there's still the chance of improving it further. There always will be. That's science.
Well, it's not so much as improving further what is already there. It's about these giant gaps that cannot be filled, will not be filled, because they can't be filled, and thus it remains a giant gap in the model, right? It's not about brushing up the details. It's about a critical part of the entire setup that just doesn't work out, right?
Okay. Brian Pop Robson, Super Chat 499, thank you, Brian, says to you, Arwyn, we have sent probes to Mercury using Newtonian physics.
That's really cute. Still can't calculate the orbit of Mercury, though.
But they managed to get there. Okay.
Yeah, that's sure they did.
Perhaps it was a lucky shot. Who knows? But Mr. Unite for the Children has super chatted $5 US. Excuse me, $5 US, saying Stellarium predicts Mercury's orbit perfectly via relativity. The little wizard is wrong, plain wrong. Yeah, so basically saying that Stellarium predicts Mercury's orbit perfectly.
Except it doesn't account for gravity, though.
Well, however it's doing it, it gets it right.
Oh, hey, I can draw a circle too, and say, oh, look, this is the pattern that I'm presuming it to go, because, yeah, that matches up the geometry. However, when you want to, introduce things like gravity, that's supposed to be there at all time, causing how everything works and moves, orbital mechanics, then suddenly you don't have it. It's just incomplete.
Okay, well, I've got 3 more super chats that are in here now, and then someone has kindly sent me that image that I was looking for earlier on, Arwyn, so I'll show it you just for your thoughts in a moment. Mark Wagner, please let me know. Mark has super chatted $5 US. Explaining the tiny discrepancy in the orbit of Mercury was an early crowning achievement and validation of relativity. There is no error.
Nothing to do with anything. Gravity of Mercury still can't be calculated. Doesn't matter how relative you approach it. There is no calculation for it. So it's really cute that it works, but you still can't calculate the gravity. Doesn't matter if it's relative or not.
Robert Williams is actually asking a question about that. He asks for $2 US. He says, what does Mercury's orbit do that it shouldn't do? I guess, what is the error, Arwyn? Do you know what the error is?
Yeah, when it is included with Newtonian gravity mechanics, it doesn't work out. The orbit doesn't match. It doesn't fit. That's the problem. That's the problem as far as I've heard. But I haven't done the calculation myself.
Yeah,
I'm just going
and nor
to
have
other
I.
people that have.
I'm going to. Sorry, Arwyn. I'm going to drop a link into the side chat for people. Thank you, Mike UK. He sent me a link to a video. I've not looked at it yet. The channel is Dr. Becky. How does Mercury's orbit prove general relativity? So if people want to grab this link and have a look at it later, you can argue the toss about it. I don't know. I've not seen it. It may be brilliant. It may be a right load of rubbish, but Mike thinks it's worth a look. So grab that link, people, and have a look at it. I will have a look at that later on. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
You naughty girl.
I'm sorry?
Naughty girl.
Naughty girl, okay. Whatever floats your boat, Arwijn.
Because it's just a fact. Relativity doesn't explain anything. It really doesn't. It just draws you into visualization process, and you end up with no calculation for gravity.
Well, I am going to watch that later, and hopefully I will learn something, which is always a nice thing. I've got another super chat here, Mr. Unite.
I bet you will learn something. What you won't learn, however, is how to calculate gravity for it and make it fit in the model.
Well, I don't know. I've not seen a video. Mr. Unite.
I guarantee it, because if
okay, you guarantee it. That's fine, Arwijn. Mr. Unite for the Children, super chat $2 US, saying Arwyn's thoughts on Mercury are cute. Thank you for that, Unite. Appreciate that. You do like that phrase, saying this is cute, that's cute, Arwyn. You do use that a lot. And there's one more super chat I want to read now, and then I'll show you that image. Andreas Elk, good afternoon, Andreas, and I did reply to your email, thank you. 20 Swedish krona saying, if Mercury is orbiting the Sun, why can't Earth? So never mind about whether it's exactly as we can predict. If Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all of them go around the Sun, why don't we? Or do we, Arwyn? Do you think we do?
Earth is stationary.
Then you'd have to explain things like the
gravity. No scientific proof for gravity. It's all conceptual, and within its conception, it's incomplete because, hey, the orbit Mercury can't be calculated with gravity. Doesn't work out. So conceptual. If it would work, then maybe the Earth could too. Yeah, if you presuppose all that, it doesn't though.
Well, we have gone through about the orbit of Mercury. We're saying it's fine. You're saying it's not. You've made your point. We've made our point. What I would say, though, of course, is Mercury, whenever and whether it's to prediction or not, Mercury has been shown to transit the face of the Sun. Venus transits the face of the Sun. No other planet does, because they're all beyond, further out than the Earth. And planets such as Mars, we get the I forget the proper word, the reversal in the orbit as we catch up to overtake. What's the word? Not precession. I forgot what it is now. Someone will tell us. But how you can see the path of Mars. It slows down. Retrograde orbits. That's it. It slows down and then goes back the other way again, because we're passing it.
Cute. I know. Love of the heavens. Very mysterious. Yeah, it is cute. It is very cute and mysterious. Well,
I have now got that image. It was actually Colon found this image. I'm just going to pop it over now. It'll be up in a few seconds. It's the paths of the shadow of the moon over various eclipses. Actually, I'm looking forward to it coming up in a larger size, because I think I can see the one from 1999, August or whenever it was, 1999, which just crossed Cornwall. Yeah, you can see, and that's the one that I saw. But you see the pattern of them. If Earth was a flat plane, you'd expect those shadows to be circles, or let's say even ovals or ellipses in some sort. But look at the one at the bottom, the red one. It appears as a let's see on its back. It's just over half a circle. How the hell does that happen if that's a flat Earth? And that is a rectangular map, as you mentioned. Hello, Arwyn, you still there? I've got you muted right now. Not me. You are muted. I think you might have accidentally muted yourself. Hello, Arwyn. Hello. I don't know. Is there a problem with you, Arwyn? Just so everyone knows, he is still sat there. Currently, he has his mic muted. Maybe he's just had to dash off for a Riley. So let's see. I'll just see if there's any more super chats. Thank you very much for these guys. Really appreciate them. And they've been really quite interesting. And to be fair, Arwyn has been what's the word? A good sport. He's taken them. I see. There's another super chat from Mark Tin. I'll just save that for a minute in the hopes that Arwyn is coming back. I don't know if he's got an issue. Yeah, we'll leave that for a while. Hello, Arwyn. Well, Mark, I'll read your super chat out now, and if Arwyn comes back, we'll put it to him. So, Mark's super chat for £5. Thank you very much, Mark. What is the planet Venus to Arwyn, and how can I observe it crossing the face of the sun in 2004? Yeah, that's what I don't understand. If they're all lights, how can you see a light, the light of Venus, as a shadow on another light? How is it that... Oh, Arwyn, you back?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd had your mic muted for a while. Have you seen that?
I know.
You know. Okay. Have you had a look at that image on the screen?
This is more questions about celestial lights.
Well, no, we were talking about the moon and that, and I said that if because it's Earth is a sphere, as the moon passes between us and the sun in an eclipse, casting its shadow, it would be a straight line across the globe, but when you unpack it, when you project it onto a flat map, you get curves. Those are the curves of the paths of the lunar shadow during eclipses. That matches perfectly and would be evidence for a globe. I don't see how that can work on a flat Earth. Maybe you can explain it.
Nope.
Okay. No explanation at all. No idea. No.
I don't know why it would have to work on any model. I'm not assuming any of it is physical in the first place. So.
Yeah, no. I will read out a super chat which I just missed, I think, from Mark 10. He asked, "What is the planet Venus to Arwyn, and how could he observe it crossing the face of the sun in 2004?" Any comments on what Venus is?
Just know it can get very incredibly bright in the morning before the sun comes up. That's what I do know.
Yep.
There's no real good explanation for that, for why it becomes so intensely bright.
It's albedo.
I don't even want to hear any just so story about that. Why is that supposed to be? It makes no freaking sense to me. Nothing you could say about it will make it make sense to me. Why it does that the way it does.
That's not.
That's
but that's not a difficult.
Bright morning star, and that's it.
Right, and it can be evening star depending where it is around the sun. But as for the brightness, it's because it's got an extremely high albedo. It's bright clouds as opposed to a rocky surface, so it reflects more light. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it only does so in the morning and never any time else. So.
Yeah, but you know why? Because it's closer into the sun, so we can only see it during that point in the night, because it could never be on the opposite side of the Earth from the sun, like Jupiter or Mars or Saturn can be. That's why you only see it in the morning. And Mercury you can only see for an even shorter time, because it'll only be so far to the ahead or behind, left, right of the sun, because it's closer.
It's not that close to the sun.
No, it's still a long way. We're talking astronomical distances, of course.
Yeah, so
but
it's always going to be supposedly in between the sun and the Earth in the model.
Yes.
Right? So if it's far away, which would also be at night at any other point, it's never that bright, even though it's always going to be in between, right?
Sorry.
Or on the other side, whatever. It's going to be close enough. Yet it's only bright very specifically in the morning moments, never anywhere else. It's not in the evening as it's approaching the horizon. It's not that bright. It's only bright.
Are you talking Venus right now, Arwyn? Yeah.
Right.
Well, Venus can be equally bright in either the morning or the evening, but you'll only see it for a short period in the morning or a short period in the evening, because it's close to the sun comparatively. In the angle of the sky, it can't be 90 degrees away from the sun in the sky. It's only going to be so many degrees away from the sun because it's closer. And if Venus is and Mercury are just lights or holograms or some sort of optical effect, light effect, how can you see them as a shadow passing across the face of the sun, which is also a light?
I don't know. I have never seen that. You know, you're just saying that. You might
No.
have some weird footage of that, perhaps. I haven't seen that. And
Okay, if you've
so
not
must
seen
make-
it, have a look at transits of Venus or transits of Mercury. Basically, I mean, they're very clever, but they're not a very exciting photo. It'll just be a little black spot on the face of the sun. But yeah, it's as per prediction, however that happens.
Right. So you have probably, what is it, 10 more of these examples of celestials having these apparent sighting and blocking and not blocking and all these things. So are you just going to keep scattergunning me with the same type of questions? Because
Well-
I'm going to keep answering the same answers. It's getting really tiresome.
Well, Arwyn, to be fair, they were questions. Those were questions asked by super chats. There's another one that's
Yeah,
come.
you're reading them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, if someone super chats, as long as it's not a grossly insulting something, do you know what I mean? Something like that, they'll get read out. If someone just super chatted effing and blinding and calling you loads of names, I would not read it out. When they've lost their money, okay? But there is another question come in from PhD Tony. Thank you, Tony, for $5 Australian. How does Arwyn explain the use of can't say it, gravimetry? How do you say that? Gravimetry in mineral exploration, or gravimetric gradiometry by submarines avoiding underwater mountains, basically detecting gravitational fields. Do you have any explanation for that?
Absolute bullshit. I've never heard of that, but I know that there is no hypothesis for gravity currently in effect, right? So whatever that is, yeah, they might have found some other cute little thing that they can attach the word gravity into some way onto that, right? If you're going to actually look into it, it's not going to prove gravity, right? None of it is. There is no proof for gravity. It's just a very popular word to use. It's just very popular. Right?
I do have an apology to make to Truth Nerds. I did see your previous super chat. I missed it. Just got caught up, and I do apologise. So your previous super chat for Truth Nerds, €2. Cylindrical projections produce rectangular maps. No comment on that. And then Truth Nerds super chatted again, €2, saying no thanks for not reading my previous super chat. I do apologise, Truth Nerds. Thankfully, that's the only one that I missed tonight. I know that's no consolation. It's not intentional. I very, very much apologise for that. And PhD Tony super chatted again, $2 Australian, saying how do Rayleigh waves and sound waves circle Earth? Do you have any thoughts on that, Arwyn? Because when Krakatoa exploded, I believe that the sound reverberated around the Earth 3 or 4 times. It could be heard. Arwyn, I can see you're there, and your mic is not muted this time. Hello?
Crap. I was on mute.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about Rayleigh waves and sound waves circling the Earth? PhD Tony's asking about that.
Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
go ahead.
Especially funny how you said that it was going to go around the Earth several times. Yeah, if it was a ball, that would not be possible.
Why?
Because it would just bounce off the geometry into the void of outer space, and you would not be coming back, right? But then again, if it's a contained realm, then it might bounce back and forth several times as it is gradually being absorbed by the surroundings in the air. But there's nothing really to bounce off because it's not spherical. It can just go in a straight line all the way.
Well, Arwyn, let's take your hypothetical flat Earth, and you've got Krakatoa somewhere across it. If that explodes, those sound waves are going out. Most of them they won't be going perfectly horizontal. They'll be going upwards. So surely they're disappearing off into space as well. No, they pass through the atmosphere and reflect and bounce round. They travel round, getting weaker.
What are they bouncing off?
Well, they're travelling around in the air.
No. You said bounce. What are they bouncing off?
Well, they're bouncing off everything. Bouncing off mountains.
But then eventually it's just gonna go right off in outer space, right? If it's bouncing off, going upward, right?
Well,
It's just
eventually
gonna
it's going to.
nothing. It's just gonna
If
continue, nothing to bounce back on, right? But actually, no, it does actually bounce back down. How can that be? If there's an open space above you, that
we're
shouldn't
still
be possible.
if you can hear a train passing from quite a distance, I mean, it's just the sound, it's the vibrations in the air. It's
Yeah, coming towards you. That's right.
yeah. PhD Tony has super chatted again, $5 Australian. He says, "I study Earth's gravity field professionally, and I do not appreciate being called a liar, Arwyn." That's what PhD Tony has to say.
Oh, well, I'm not necessarily calling him a liar. He could just also be very, very dumb.
Wow. Wow. That's quite an accusation to make. So would you?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is because there is no hypothesis for gravity. There's no scientific hypothesis for gravity. It's a concept. You can't scientifically prove it. You can't manipulate the independent variable, the phenomenon which gravity is, in order to establish that it is actually a separated thing. No, it's just an effect. It's just an effect.
Well,
Right?
he's on to a winner then, isn't he? No doubt he's making a nice little living on this just an effect. He's what is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's people making a giant living
Wow.
of faking space and going there. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Whereas,
What a world. You know that there's a whole range of people pretty much everywhere in the world that make a lot of money lying to people every day. Every day. You know what they are? It's called the political
Televangelists?
class. It's called the political class, yeah? Well, that's not going to
Televangelists.
surprise you, right? Can I finish?
Yes.
You're not going to be surprised that politicians, professional liars, exist for a very long time, right? You're not surprised about that. So why would you be surprised that there would be entire professions out there that are all a mockery, that are just lies? Why is that so surprising to you then? Right?
Well, I don't know.
People lie. There are professional liars throughout history. A large percentage of them, actually.
Okay, so you would be talking about
with
scientists like Tony, all the astronomers, everyone involved in the space program. It would have to be everyone involved in telecommunications, GPS, radio transmission stuff that's bouncing off the ionosphere and all that sort of stuff. Geologists, and God knows what else. I don't know. A massive percentage of the world's workforce would have to be. Perhaps it's everyone, and everyone is lying to you, and you're the only person who's not lying.
No, I already addressed that, right? There's just a large percentage that are just very stupid, and they'll just believe what they're told, and then they'll get paid for believing what they're told, and then they'll be even said, "Yeah, you're smart because you did what we told you to do," right? And they don't have to know it's all bullshit. They're just doing their little calculations. They're just going with the model that they were given to work with, right? They don't have to know it's all bullshit. They don't really look into the nitty-gritty details to confirm whether it is actually a real thing or not. Because if you're going to ask the wrong questions, you're eventually going to be swept to the side and replaced with somebody that's eager to get complicated answers.
Well, Mr. Robert Williams just super chatted $5 US, saying, "Ask Arwyn, there's a dependent variable, independent variable. Is there a third type of variable?" Answer, there is. The confounding variable. So I don't think that was a direct question, really. But thank you for that, Robert. Made me
You can
chuckle.
add on whatever you like, but it's just still eventually going to come down to the scientific method. You know, you can make a whole complex hypothesis. It's still going to have to contain a scientific method.
So, can I ask you? Are quite welcome. Just to say you don't want to answer, but can I ask you?
You can ask a question, but please,
okay.
I want to round out the show.
Okay, all right. It's just a general question, and I didn't want to go into details. Just a general question. Are you a religious person, Arwyn?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Okay. So you want to round it off. Listen, Arwyn, thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging. I have really enjoyed this chat, and maybe you'll do it again sometime.
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe we could do it as a formal debate with a specific topic.
Yeah, well, you have this great system where people give you money to ask questions, right? But if they're just constantly going to barrage me with the same type of questions over and over again, like eventually I'm just tired of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Well,
I'm not interested in like, oh, look at this heavenly sighting. Oh, what do you think now? It has to be a ball. I don't care. Like, I'm not interested in talking about that same thing all the time. You know,
okay.
I don't
Well,
care.
listen.
It's not that interesting. There's much more interesting factors at play in the
All
realm.
right. Well, Arwyn, if you wish, I'd be willing to have a one-on-one debate on a neutral channel, so I'm not making any money from it. Okay.
I don't mind you making any money as
Oh,
long as
okay.
I can.
Oh, okay. All right. So perhaps we could do one. And if anyone wants to make any super chats, they can, and we could do it so that you're not being passed on those questions. And well, whatever.
Just
Well, but
stop asking the same type of questions over and over again by 10 people. That would be nice.
yeah, but the thing is, if two people have paid super chats, then really it's beholden on me to ask the question. But I can understand how it'd be frustrating having the same question. Of course I do. Of course I do. Well, look. Okay. Well, listen. Maybe we
It
can.
was good to get into Mercury, though. I liked being able to address that
Okay.
specifically.
All right. Well, maybe I can find out more about it from my side, and maybe we can have that as a topic. I don't know enough about it right now, but I'm always keen to learn. So, Arwyn, I do want to thank you for being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, well, it was better than I expected. And
Okay.
as a show host, at least you are pretty decent.
Thank
It
you.
would be nice though that, well, yeah, you're probably used to through Nathan and all that, but it would be better for the conversation if I could actually answer without being immediately interrupted by not incessantly interrupted, but more like accidentally interrupting. It's a bad habit. We all have it as internet active people. You get that you quickly overtalk. It's better to not do it because it just becomes a little bit more fluid. But that's just detail works. It's format fallacy.
Yeah, but I mean that's true.
Everything else is fine.
There is habit of people, and but to be honest, on both sides. But also, Arwyn, occasionally when you start speaking, your sound isn't picking up at first, and so I think you stopped. But yeah, okay, lovely.
Right? Yeah, that can also be a problem.
Yeah.
I guess.
All right. I mean, there was nothing malicious. I don't think there's anything malicious with you trying to talk over me or me over you. It's just the accidental. Listen, thank you very much. I would like to do it again. Maybe we can hook up sometime and discuss whether we will or won't. Okay.
All right. Can I shout out my channel?
Yes, please do. I'll tell you what. Can you as well grab a link to Arwyn's channel and drop it into the side chat? I will just say, Arwyn, just before you do, Bitwise79 super chatted $2 US saying, Arwyn, what's your favourite colour?
White.
White. Okay. Right, yeah,
Because
please.
it contains all colors.
Okay, please shout out your channel. That's only fair.
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
not white actually. I don't know. Yeah, my channel's ARWIGN. Arwyn. I have a daily show, the Flat Earth Early Bird Show, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekends, and I am very much interactive with my chat. I really do try to have conversations with my chat, and because of that, also sometimes there's silent moments, because I'm not into this habit of constantly keep rambling just to keep talking. I basically don't do that anymore, and instead really try to just speak when it's full of purpose, when I can really address something and not just as filler. So there might be some silent pauses somewhere here and there, but overall there's a lot of good conversation. And good tips. I get good tips from people in my chat too. I interact with ballers and I interact with flat earthers. I try to prevent them from going very hard at one another, because that is kind of disruptive for the conversations. So yeah, everybody's welcome as long as you behave and don't get all patronizing.
And I can say I've looked at Arwyn's channel a few times. The only that was the only time I've ever posted in your chat, Arwyn, and you were I openly say you were extremely fair, and it was very polite, wasn't it?
I do my best.
Cool.
It's really important to me, and it's important for what I'm trying to achieve, which is that everybody learns. I'm expecting the ballers to learn. If we can't make them learn what we know, then at least they can just learn on their own through exposure and civil interaction. And then hopefully one day they'll be ready to face the facts.
Well, listen, I popped your link in, Colon did, and I saw Timo did as well. So your link has been dropped in the side chat at least 3 times. And actually, Arwijn, what I'll do is I will, in a minute, I'll edit the description and put a link to your channel in the description of this stream as well, okay?
All right.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. You take care. I know it's an hour later for you there, so it's getting on for half midnight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 12. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
All right. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You take care. Anytime. Right. Well, I'll pop you back out into the live waiting room, Arwijn. There we go. And I see we've got quite a few people. I'm going to bring some of them in. I'll give them a few seconds warning so they know it's happening. So let's bring in. I see we've got PhD Tony, and I see we got Brixie, and we also have Lyle, who was in earlier on this afternoon, but you had some mic problems. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Greetings.
Right, greetings to you, Tony, and thank you for the super chats, pal. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
I don't know that you got the answers to the questions you were looking for, but
No, there was a simple declaration that gravity doesn't exist and that we can't prove it, which is false. Claims about how the scientific method work that are also false. And on top of that, I got called an idiot. So,
I didn't see that. Was that written in the side chat?
Well, no, he just said that I was really, really dumb.
Oh, yeah.
So
I caught that.
I'm going to paraphrase that into he called me an idiot. Now we can objectively test our relative educational and intellectual backgrounds, and I invite Arwijn to any sort of intellectual competition. I happen to have represented my country on several occasions at Mind Sports, and performed reasonably well in international competition.
Oh, wow.
So I'm actually reasonably confident that I can do pretty well against Arwijn in most formats.
I've never heard of Mind Sports. Is that what you called it?
Mind Sports, yeah. So chess, for instance, is an example of a mind sport.
Gotcha.
But there's a broader category. So mind sport championships would include such things as poker or Scrabble or Go. Go is the particular game that I play.
Oh, right.
So the Chinese/Japanese/Korean.
I know the game.
Yeah.
All right.
You have to go before you stop, right?
Yes. There are lots of jokes about it, but yeah. No, sadly, that's the name we've come down with. The Koreans would rather be called it Baruk, and the Chinese would rather be called it Wei Chi. But we spoke to the Japanese first, and they call it Go. So. And it is very hard to do Google searches for Go.
Yes, I bet it is. Can I just say, I see Arwijn is still in the waiting room. Just to let you know, Arwijn, I have updated the description. A link to your channel is there. Okay, thank you. Well, I must admit, though, I appreciate you didn't get the answers that you were looking for, Tony, and I appreciate that he did call you dumb. But overall, because I don't know how much of the stream you watched, overall, I quite enjoyed that. I mean, obviously, I disagreed with, 99% of what Arwijn said, but we were able to have a discussion, which I thought was quite good. And I've never seen Arwijn on any channel other than his own or Nathan Oakley's. Someone said he goes on Dell's sometime, but I've never seen him anywhere else. So I was quite pleased that Arwijn came out and come on here.
Well, I agree. Sorry, I seem to be dominating the conversation, but Arwijn seems a pleasant enough individual. He's picking up some bad habits from hanging around with Oakley and his friends, and getting quite abusive and dismissive of arguments, and quite autocratic about what constitutes science and what doesn't. And the reality is that actually Arwijn is not the ultimate. Arwijn, Nathan Oakley, Tony Riley, whatever, are not the ultimate arbiters of what is or is not science.
No,
But,
not by a long shot. And neither am I. And I'm sure that neither are you, Tony.
Yeah, that's right. This is why when I write a paper, it doesn't get accepted just because I wrote it. It gets shown to a bunch of people with expertise in the field. They determine whether or not it's worth publishing. And then, even then, when it's published, people get the opportunity to criticize it and respond to it. So, you're quite right. I don't declare what science is.
No.
Science is an organic process, but generally the bottom line is you show stuff to scientists and they tell you whether or not it's scientific. You don't show stuff to random goofballs from the fringes of the internet and get them to opine on it. That's not science.
It's not. That's not how it works, Tony. Is it not how it works?
Yeah.
But
I should let other people talk.
Well, I see we've got Brixie in here as well. Hello, Brixie. Not seen you for a little while, my friend.
Yeah, well, I'm still in and out occasionally. Don't always join the chat room, but I still listen on.
Oh, good stuff. I'm just going to adjust your volume a bit. I'm having to rebalance. Maybe you're on a different mic or your setup's different than last time because it remembers the volume I set you to. But right now, you're rather loud. Go on, try say something else.
Okay, hopefully I'm not quite so loud. I could adjust mine if you need it.
No, that's all right. I've made an adjustment. Okay. Yeah, so it's good to see you. So how did you think it all went tonight? What did you think of it?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you cringe at certain things. I'd like him really to spend a bit more time explaining what he thinks are actually the ideas of the flat Earth. For example, how he understands density works, especially what his understanding of relative density and so on. But
I did try and push him on that, and it seemed to be that the gas or whatever sorts according to the density. Why? Because it does. I couldn't really get beyond that because we were talking about a container with atmosphere in, and he said it will settle eventually to density order. So I said, well, if you turn that container up the other way, what will happen? And he said, well, it will resettle the other way. Well, why? It can't see anything. Well, what energy is it? What is deciding that now the other way is where the denser stuff goes? No answer, really.
Yeah, but I would like him to sort of state, for example, what he would expect to happen if density was the cause as he went up a mountain. Surely, if it's the discrepancy of density of a object to the density around, then the higher up you go, if the density around is going down, then it should be getting heavier. This seems to be the natural conclusion if you believe what the flat earthers believe about density. And of course, what we see is the exact opposite.
Oh, the whole thing with the density and the density towers and that, as a basic first hypothesis, fair enough. Yeah, this metal ball is denser than the air around, so it's good. But then why? They're not taking it beyond that, have they? They're using it as an excuse to try and rule out gravity.
Yeah, but it isn't just so much the why. It's that if you make this assumption, you must then draw some conclusions. And if you think it's the difference in the density that affects the force, then you must assume the bigger discrepancy between two densities, the bigger the force. It just doesn't work.
Let's conceive of two experiments. Let's conceive of an experiment where we put a block of dry ice, frozen carbon dioxide, onto a scale, and then we let it sublimate. The force applied to the scale will decrease over time as it sublimates, but the density of the dry ice will not change. So
any eggs involved, Tony? Are there any eggs?
No eggs.
No eggs. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Let's now consider a rubberized balloon. We weigh it. Okay, we've got a reference weight. So now we fill it with carbon dioxide and vastly reduce its density, and then we put it back on the scale. Even though we vastly reduced the density of the rubberized balloon, the mass registered on the scale has increased. We've reduced the density, 10, 20, 100-fold, but the mass on the scale has increased, not by much, because carbon dioxide isn't that heavy, but it's still increased, even though we have reduced the density.
I like your dry ice sublimating. I've seen that done the other way around with an ice cube suspended, but the dry ice, that's nice, because it's slowly disappearing as it sublimates. As you said, the density of the dry ice that's on that scale does not change, but the mass does.
Yeah. So the either way, the force applied to the scale can be shown to density is not the determining factor. Density is also a function of temperature and various definitions of where the surface is and all this sort of stuff. Whereas mass is easier to define and easier to register. And also the rate at which individual protons or neutrons, the rate at which individual neutrons fall varies around the surface of the Earth. Neutrons don't have density. Not well-defined density. It can't be that they're falling because of the relative density with stuff around them, and they fall at the same rate as large macroscopic objects. 9.8 meters a second. It's or approximately, since it varies around the Earth. It's just not this density argument just doesn't hold up on any level whatsoever.
No, of course it doesn't. And by the way, sorry, I'm going to keep muting my mic and unmuting it because I've got my aircon. I've had to turn it on because I'm freezing, so it's squealing. I'll turn it off as soon as I stop speaking. Yeah, the whole reason is they're trying to deny gravity. And the reason they have to deny gravity is that doesn't work with a flat disk, which would want to collapse into a sphere.
Yeah. Actually, the Greeks, the ancient Greeks worked out that the Earth must be a sphere on that basis because everything seems to everything falls towards the center. That's the nature of stuff. Therefore, the Earth must be spherical. They sort of worked out from the nature of gravity, the shape, what shape the Earth must be, because everything must fall into that center and accrete from there. So yeah. It bewilders me that somebody who has no technical skills, no scientific skills, no demonstrable intellectual ability suddenly thinks that, the way science has worked for the past 400 years that has taken us from the age of sail to space travel, from pen and ink to the internet, that same overall motion of human knowledge and human achievement is suddenly invalid when it comes to the shape of the world and observations of it. It just, it makes no sense. And again, I'm prattling aloft.
No.
Anyway,
it's absolutely fine, Tony. And my aircon's gone quiet, thankfully.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted a bit there. Something in what you were saying. One of the other people in here, someone else said, Brick's here, Lyle, isn't it, that we got in here as well. And actually, I saw this Joe Whip and Mitch and Julie. I'm going to bring them in as well. Good evening to you, Joe, and good evening, Mitch and Julie.
Good evening, Mr. Sensible. Sorry about that. I wasn't expecting to be pulled in, but that's cool.
That's all right. And actually, you just saying it, I do apologise, Joe. Just remind me what I was going to say, PhD Tony, when you were saying about people's technical ability or so on. When we were talking about Mercury, I had heard about the discrepancy in the orbit with Newtonian. I believed that Einstein had explained it, but I wasn't 100% sure if he'd explained it completely. But I quite openly said, I don't know more about it. So I would have to bow to people with great knowledge. And I'm sure, you've got the knowledge that you have, but someone perhaps starts talking to you about nuclear physics or some sort of biology, and you'll say, sorry, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's right. And it happens all the time in the community. There are points where I'm talking with even someone like Team Skeptic, who's got a quite formidable understanding of some aspects of theoretical physics, where I'm just going, okay, I'm going to have to read up and catch up with you, mate, because you're ahead of me. And it shouldn't. And there are times where I have misspoken. where I have said that where I've used the wrong term. Once when talking with Gleam, I referenced the Lorentz transform when I meant the Lorentz factor. The Lorentz factor wasn't developed by Lorentz. And and he will leap on that and use it to argue that I'm just a complete I'm always wrong and nobody need listen to me at any point.
Well, I presume he knows everything about everything and never ever makes a slip of the tongue or an error or whatever.
Yes.
Hello, Mitch.
Hey, Mr. Sensible.
I don't know how much of this.
you?
I'm fine, thank you. I hope Julie's fine. I don't know how much of the stream. I don't know how much of the stream you caught and what you thought of it.
I caught the beginning of it. It was really, honestly, deeply painful and disconsoling to hear someone who could be smart if they wanted to, but their fanaticism is preventing them from really seeing how foolish their beliefs are. And it's just a shame. I mean, to think, that human beings have known the Earth is a sphere for anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 years with certainty. And it's not a lie. It's not fake. It's real. Air has weight. Relative density doesn't exist. It's very difficult to continue to listen to people, without irony, use terminology like relative density. Absolute hogwash. There's no such thing as relative density.
Well, there is such a thing as relative density. Actually, it's called specific density in many cases. You just relate everything to a medium, but it's not a force. It's not a force. Not. Okay.
It's not. I stand correct. I mean, there's such a thing as relative density, but relative density does not impart any sort of force on any object. It just is what it is. What causes the force is gravity, not the density.
PhD Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. Relative density is, as I understand it, it's a ratio of the effect of gravity on water to the ratio of effect on other liquids.
So that's one. Relative density is often defined relative to some standard. And water is often used as the standard. So often relative density is given relative to water. It's just the ratio of your density to water. But since water is defined to have a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter, that's not actually very useful. That turns out to just be the density. So normally you're talking about the relative density of some other object to some other material, like seawater or something. I was
just going to say, Tony, because I keep marine aquariums and we talk about specific gravity. Is that the same thing that you're talking about?
Yes. So specific gravity. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a unitless measure.
It's just in relation to water.
Right. So that's exactly right.
Of the ratio of gravity, the ratio of gravity of water, or the density of water compared to the density of a different object, liquid, or whatever it is, and how gravity reacts to that. Like you said, the ratio of water's density is 1 cubic whatever
when I'm mixing up seawater, you keep adding salt until the specific gravity is 1.035 roughly. So it's that dense compared to water.
Right. So it has to do with gravity and its effect on what you're using it for.
Right. So it means that if we take our water and we add some dirt to it and we make some mud that weighs 2 grams per cubic centimeter, then that would have a specific gravity of 2 because it would have twice the density of water. Right?
And so what's the specific gravity of a flat earther?
So specific gravity is just is basically a synonym for relative density. So it's the ratio between the density of an object and a reference medium. Yeah. So,
for example, we use it for us home brewers who make our own alcohol. We use specific gravity to measure the strength of the alcohol, because the more alcohol has in it,
the denser you feel.
Right. Speaking of Brixie, that's another measurement, is Brix. BRIX.
Well, Mr. Sensible, I happen to have caught the beginning, the first 20 minutes, and the last half hour, and two things I would say about the whole thing. Three things, probably.
Three weapons. Yeah, go on.
They couldn't pay me enough money to listen to talk to him for over 2 hours.
Well, to be fair, I quite enjoyed it. I've got a whole load of clips lined up that I used quite a few of tonight, and I think, when can I use this one? Can I use that one? That was fun. It was like Flurf Bingo.
Well, I get angry with people like Nathan Thompson and Nathan Oakley, but for somebody like Arwijn, I'm with Mitch. I just feel sad for the poor guy. You know, he's completely lost, and he's wasting his life on nonsense.
Yeah, and it all seems that all these people have some sort of horrible trauma that occurs in their life, which kind of gets them out of reality and into pretend reality.
Right, I've just brought two people in. Oh, thank you, Ellen. I've just brought Ellen into the room. Keep yourself muted if you're making background noises, but otherwise you're welcome to join in, Ellen. And Blue Marble Science. Hello, good evening, and how are you, sir?
Hello, Mr. Sensible. How are you doing this evening?
Super fine, sir. Super fine. It's the man with the best accent on the whole internet. Good evening.
Thank you. Yeah, I watched with some remorse, I suppose, that performance by our friend Arwijn. He is a sad little fellow, isn't he?
Any specific thoughts? Any specific thoughts about what he was doing?
He tried to help him, Mr. Sensible, but he won't take your help.
Well,
I have a question for PhD Tony. Hey Tony, what specific papers have you wrote on, or what specific topics in your PhDs have you wrote on?
So the specific topic that I cover is called glacial isostatic adjustment, and so in general terms, it's the deformation of the Earth and the change in its rotational properties in response to a change in surface loads. And the particular application that I look at is for large ice sheets. So as large ice sheets accumulate and melt, they change the load distribution across the Earth's surface, and the Earth deforms under them, and you can get up to more than 1,000 meters in some places of deformation as a result of these processes going on. And they also have an effect on Earth's rotation and obviously the gravity field, not only because of the surface distribution of mass, but because of redistribution of mass in Earth's interior. There's and primarily this is preserved in sea level records, paleo sea level records, and we use those to reconstruct both the physical properties of the Earth, but also the characteristics of the ice sheets. So that's my primary field of scientific interest.
So when you said about the sea levels and that, is that including things like isostatic rebound and working out?
Exactly. So that's exactly my specialty. So GIA, or glacial isostatic adjustment, is my speciality. And
is that the new name for it?
It used to be called post-glacial rebound, but they've decided the GIA, or glacial isostatic adjustment.
I work for the GIA. Sounds good.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. So it does sound interesting stuff, Tony. Do you ever talk about that on your channel? Do you do stuff about that on your channel?
I haven't done any stuff about that yet, but I'm finding it difficult to summon up the motivation to thrash through flat Earth stuff anymore. So I'll be doing some broader science. But I will be taking on young Earth creationism, which I think I have a lot of expertise necessary to debunk that nonsense.
Well, Tony, with regard to that, I wouldn't mind chatting to you about that sometime, because before I used to look at flat Earth stuff on the flat Earth, what is it? The flat Earth forum.
I could just jump in here. I could say, if by some amazing coincidence, I happen to also be a glaciologist, but my specialty is in the invention and tasting of cocktails.
Nice one, Mitch. Yeah, sorry, Tony. What I was saying was, I used to spend a lot of time looking at the flat Earth stuff on the online forums rather than YouTube. When I started really looking at YouTube, I was more interested in young Earth creationists. And I spent masses of time looking at Thunderfoot and his Why Do People Laugh at Creationist series, which is absolutely stonking.
Yes.
I'd recommend it to anyone. So, yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts, because that's one of my bugbears as well.
Hello. Did you happen to see Fight the Flat Earth debate Dr. Sue Genis, the geocentrist, the other night?
I did indeed. The geocentrist, the doctor who bought his doctorate from Vanuatu.
Yes.
Yes, that was fun. I don't know if anyone did, and that was sorry. Was that Ellen there speaking?
This is me. This is I go by Brenda also.
All right. Hi, Brenda.
Yeah, my old computer died, and I had to get a new account on Discord.
Okay, that's cool.
Sure. That's what they all say. You have like 12 accounts, Brenda.
I have 2, at most 3.
Well,
we can't judge you on that, because you said 2, at least 3. That means you probably have more. But anyway,
it doesn't matter. Come in here. You said who you are. That's not a problem. Yeah. So I did see that geocentric thing. Did any of you other guys see that? Because that was interesting stuff.
Only a little bit.
Yeah.
Only a little bit for myself.
The thing that confuses me about geocentrism, do they believe the Earth rotates, or do they believe it's also stationary?
Generally, I think they think it's stationary, so everything is moving around.
Otherwise, it only makes things worse, doesn't it? Everything else has to rotate around even faster.
Well, that's what he said. He said that Einstein's relativity says that the universe relativity works just as well for the entire universe rotating around the Earth as the other way around.
Which is a misquote of what Einstein said. What Einstein said is that using only visual evidence, you can't tell the difference. That's got nothing to do with whether or not the laws of relativity permit the rates of motion that are required by the former scenario.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to go out very far. And was someone saying it was one of the outer planets? For that to be orbiting round once a day, you would be breaking the speed of light. But certainly, when you get out to stellar distances, it gets stupid, doesn't it? It just would not work.
Absolutely.
And the further you go, the faster you have to go.
Yeah, but don't forget, according to Arwijn, the stars were just paintings on a glass dome.
I'm not sure if he did say that. He said
they're luminaries.
He said they were luminaries, and he's talking about holograms. So I think I need to stand. I don't recall him actually, because I mentioned about are they projected on in the surface, and he sort of said, "Well, that's a neat idea" or something. I don't think that, I don't want to put words into it. Yeah, that's cute.
I think it was particularly evasive for someone who is an expert in what was the phrase he used when he called himself?
I've forgotten.
Oh
now.
my heaven!
Someone will
an
remember
expert
that.
because he's an expert in all things.
No, he did use a particular word, didn't he, Mitch? I forgot what it was.
Oh my God, it was hilarious.
I choked on that, and I saw someone repeated it with some smileys or whatever in the chat.
Yeah,
maybe someone can remember what that word is and repost it for us.
Well, he thinks he's an elf too, doesn't he?
Yes, someone did say something about that.
Unironically, I think he has said he's an elf. I don't know.
Oh dear.
Do you live in the North Pole?
Geospatialistic something? Geospatialistic expialidocious? Something like that. don't know what it was. It was funny as hell, though. That's for sure.
Gary Wybenger in the chat, you're saying your brother-in-law's got 2 planes. I've already allowed that post once. Don't keep posting the same thing again. You can post what you want as long as it's within the rules. Don't keep reposting the same thing, okay? Thank you.
I posted in the live chat when I was listening. These guys, I've never heard anyone address this issue. Most of these guys aren't young enough. I'm old enough to remember here in the U.S. when they first started broadcasting Wimbledon tennis live.
Yeah.
And back in the 60s. And how the hell did that ever get to the U.S. from England without satellites? No one's ever explained that
Steamship
on the flat Earth. Yeah.
I don't know what the big problem is. We can send TV signals. We've been able to do that for flipping years. So what's the issue with them sending it from the lunar lander to the orbiter, from the orbiter back to a whacking great aerial based on Earth? I don't know.
Well, you can't do it on the Earth because of the curve.
Energy dissipates at the square of the distance of radiation. So
true.
When you start getting pretty far out, you're talking about a pretty hefty.
But unless you're using an antenna, right? Directional antenna don't suffer that that energy loss, do they?
Well,
no, but you have the curve issue.
To an extent.
Yeah, well, with the curve issue, they had several listening stations, didn't they, around the world? But of course, with Voyager, that is suffering from that, isn't it? Because isn't the energy received from it something like a lighted match at several million miles or whatever? It's a pitiful amount, but we can still pick it up.
Yeah.
So many billionths of a watt. Yeah.
Yeah, technically with Voyager, because it's already so far out, the percentage of increase in distance is actually going down over time because it's maintaining a constant velocity. So the reduction is making less and less effect. So we're still going to get a signal for a long time. Of course, whether or not we'll be capable of picking it up when it goes below a certain threshold is another thing.
It'll get lost in the noise.
It's quite amazing how they can pick it up. I forget, isn't it several billionths of a watt or something stupid like that?
It's tiny, tiny. It is amazing.
We actually studied the Voyager transmission protocols in my math course. Actually, we did a thing in code theory, and it turns out that that one of the bits that Voyager can transmit with is broken. It's always on. So effectively it's only sending 7 bits, and because the signal is so poor, you actually have to use code theory to sort of detect and correct any transmission errors, and they've managed to turn that broken bit into an error detection facility. So they've recoded the way it transmits messages to sort of incorporate the fact that it's malfunctioning slightly. Anyway, that's actually very boring and very tedious.
No, I think that's actually very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
You're talking. Remember, Tony, you're talking to people who we've all got varying levels of ability and knowledge. Most of us are laymen, but to be honest, anyone who's watching any of these debunking channels has at least a passing interest in science, I think.
That's right. Well, I guess so.
That was the thing I noticed about Arwijn is he isn't interested. He's not curious at all.
No.
It's like the death of I think flat Earth is the death of curiosity because the truth of the globe is all around you. And so you have to isolate yourself from facts, and they just become intellectually uncurious, and that's really sad.
Yeah, because he did say something, and I said that's not good enough, and then I took it back. I said no, that's unfair. I was just, but because people do live their everyday lives. I don't know how my car works. I just drive it. I don't care. I don't know how an elevator works. It just goes up and down. That's all I need to know. And I actually think that's quite sad because for me, I wonder why it does that. I find that a real driver and an interest to learn about stuff, at least at some sort of superficial level.
Well, it doesn't seem to me, sorry, Tony, Doesn't seem to me that he has an original thought in his head. He just parrots what he's heard from flat Earth people on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's really no independent thinking going on with him. It's tragic.
It's also a false victimhood, because he's making himself out to be the victim of prejudice against him for his beliefs, when in fact his beliefs are completely contrary to the observable universe. So it's kind of a tough line to follow. And Julie's here, by the way.
Hello, Julie. Good evening to you.
Hi, Mr. Sensible. How are you?
I'm fine. There's about 7 or 8 of us in here, so I hope we got a lot of food ready.
Well, the quality of the room just improved, Julie.
It did.
Obviously.
Oh, it's good to hear you anyway.
Yes. More about these people that you are speaking of.
These people of whom I speak. We have Blue Marble Science. We have Brixie. We've got Brenda, Joe Whip, Lyle, and PhD Tony, myself, and Mitch is here as well, Julie.
Well, nice to meet you all, Mitch especially.
Fine fellow.
I've heard that.
Can I ask PhD Tony a question, please?
Of course.
PhD Tony, Nathan always says pseudo-Ramonian force space. And I don't know what that is, but I don't think it means that it doesn't exist, which Nathan says. And also, I don't think it's pronounced Ramonian. I think it's pronounced Ryman. Isn't that right?
I always said Riemannian. That was always the pronounce. And if you listen to say, what's the name? Tom Lehrer. Tom Lehrer has the. My first paper was on the analytic non-Euclidean geometry of infinitely differentiable Riemannian manifolds. I'd always heard it pronounced as Riemannian.
Okay, but what is it? What is that? I don't know what it is. But I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not non-existent, as Nathan tries to say it is.
So Riemannian manifolds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a type of geometric construct with curve that possess the property of curvature without being embedded in a higher dimensional space. So they're important in general relativity. General relativity uses the mathematical principles associated with Riemannian manifolds to explain the property the properties of a relativistic universe, of a general relativity universe. Now I will explain to people. So my background, I'm a mathematician. I came from a very mathematical background into geophysics. So my grounding in physics is not as strong as it could be. There are some parts of physics that I'm very strong in. General relativity is not one of my strongest suits. So if I misspeak, please bear that in mind.
We'll clip it and use it against you forever, Tony.
I would expect no less.
Ryman's geometry described non-planar geometry. Everything that Euclid described, which is the geometry that we're all familiar with, all happens on a plane or in 3D space. Riemannian geometry, the rules are different. For example, in certain types of geometry, equilateral triangle would have less than 180 degrees.
Or more than 180 degrees.
Or more than 180 degrees. It's amazing.
It depends. Yeah. So the spherical trigonometry. Clive Wells is in the chat, and Clive Wells, of course, is I think a reader in mathematical physics at Cambridge, and he says Riemannian.
And that business about the triangle, so that covers that flight path thing, doesn't it? Head from the pole southwards, take 90 degrees, go so far, take 90 degrees, you get back to the pole. So
that's right. So it turns out that any triangle on a sphere, the angle, the interior angles on that will add up to more than 180.
Just don't tell Tony. Don't tell Tony.
But if it was curving the other way, if, for example, we were on a concave Earth, as some people do speculate, they would add up to less than 180. The laws of geometry, and you can move along straight lines that sort of turn out to intersect. The idea that lines that are parallel stay parallel. They don't in Riemannian geometry or in non-Euclidean geometry anyway. They can intersect because the surface that they're on isn't flat.
We're losing them, Doc.
I'm here. I'm here.
I did want to, because Arwijn did bring it up, that ultimately a lot of these conversations come down to what you expect, what you accept as being a science and what you reject. And flat earthers and anti-science advocates of all stripes rely on arrogating to themselves this authority that isn't scientific. And you'll often hear them say evolution is just not scientifically sound. It's not a scientific theory.
Because you can't repeat it. You didn't observe it. Oh, shut up.
Yeah. Yes, and it's a they're trying to move the goalposts here by asserting that they're qualified and suitably well informed, that their opinion on what is or is not science counts for anything. Arwijn's natterings about what is or is not science are of no moment to anyone. No one cares. Least of all does the body of modern science care. And this gets back to another point that you raised, Mr. Sensible, which was understanding each and every piece of technology. There are pieces of technology that are quite fantastic, and I sort of wish that I understood them, but I'm not so enthusiastic that I will go into the details because there's other stuff I'd rather learn. I'm actually very fond of dinosaurs and history, so I read a lot of history textbooks, and I read a lot of dinosaur textbooks. Not so much technology textbooks, but this gets back to there is too much science, there is too much knowledge, there is just too much for one person to master. You can't know everything nowadays. You can't do all science. And you referenced this before when you said it's okay to say I don't know, or we're moving beyond my expertise, or I may have been mistaken.
Yeah.
It's okay to say any of those things because this isn't a one-man job. Science relies on thousands of people working together.
Yep.
But even if you chose one subject, I mean, like your, I don't even know the proper terms, your gravimetric studies, that'll be a vast field as well. You'll have a specialist area and may have a lot of knowledge about some similar areas and some knowledge about areas that are a bit, but it'll reach a point you don't know all about that field, I'm sure.
So Clive has picked me up on an error that I just made. Cave Earth is the same. I was thinking of a saddle Earth. He's quite right.
Yeah.
You need a saddle for the angle to less than 180. So I just screwed up. Perhaps I should have had breakfast. Who can tell? But anyway.
Well, the difference with somebody like you, Tony, is that you make a mistake, you own up to the mistake and correct it.
You have to, though, don't you? Otherwise,
flat earthers
double down.
Earthers never admit to a mistake.
No, of course
they
not.
Never correct themselves. They just wave it away like it didn't happen.
Or they double down and ignore because they can mute you, they can boot you, they can get loads of people just to take the piss out of you, rather than say, look, do you know what, I was wrong about that. I mean, in my mage thing, it wasn't that we made an error, but we had readings for pressure and temperature, and the pressure goes down in a nice gradient, the temperature follows, it drops, it rises, it drops again, as it should do. But what's his name? Brian's Logic, who tried to debunk Mage and failed. However, he did point out that those temperatures seemed to be wrong. They were too high. And we looked into it, and yes, it appears that they're too high. Now, it wasn't the world's most expensive sensor. Maybe it's a sort of miscalibration or just the quality of the sensor, who knows. But that's right, it was reading higher than it should do. So I said, you're right, it's reading higher than it should do. That's not a problem. What would be stupid is if I just doubled down, because then, of course, they would be able to beat me by showing I was lying, showing I was wrong. So it's not worth it. Own your mistakes, or whatever, or not a mistake in that case, but own the errors.
It's not a mistake, and so I've started watching the videos by. There was a guy called Professor Julius Sumner Miller, and I'm showing my age here, but he was around in the early 70s, and he was a very passionate physics communicator, and he and you should. He's definitely worth digging up and watching these videos, because he goes. Some would say that he will do all these physical demonstrations, and sometimes they don't work out the way he wants. He says some would say that the experiment failed. I say I failed to meet the conditions necessary for Mother Nature to do what I wanted, what I expected to happen in those circumstances. I failed to set up the experiment properly. It's not that the experiment failed. Physics worked. Physics works all the time. And he will often, do stuff and then not explain. He'll often set up an experiment and say, you can do this at home, and figure out what the result is. And and I'm not going to explain why this result is as it is. You're going to have to go and work out, because he's not interested in dictating to people. He's not interested in brainwashing people. He's interested in getting them to learn stuff themselves. And it's just the direct opposite of how flat earthers and anti-science people claim that science is taught. They claim that it's dictatorial. Sorry.
Tony, can you post the guy's name in the chat so everyone can get it?
Yep.
So at least you've got the name.
Oh, I've got it. I've got a link.
Oh, can you post it? The link you might not be able to post, Brenda. If you drop the link into the general chat.
I can post a link to.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you. Then people can. Oh, someone has posted the name there. Oh, that's you. That's you, Tony. Yeah.
Yes, that's a.
Okay, brilliant.
I'm always mindful of the expression, the saying about be careful arguing with idiots, because they bring you down to their level.
They beat you with experience, wouldn't they? Yes.
Oh.
Oh dear. Well, I must admit, I thought a couple of times Arwijn got a bit heated. Of course, occasionally, and we're doing it now, one of us will talk over the other, because we can't see each other, we get no visual clues, we both start talking. But he very much tried to pick up and sort of said that I was talking over him, which there was no intent at all. I think, actually, to tell you the truth, there was one time I was talking about something and he started, and I deliberately raised my voice and carried on the rest of my point, ignoring him. But yeah, I think it went okay generally.
I thought you were a gentleman the entire time I was watching it. I thought you handled it. You were polite. You were not disrespectful.
Although the video clips probably wouldn't have been appreciated if he realised what was happening.
But he wasn't seeing them, I don't think.
No, I don't think he was.
But, I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I didn't hear it get that heated, but maybe I'm used to a higher level. But I've seen people in flat Earth be far more excited than anything I heard today.
Yeah, no, I don't think he lost it at all. No, I'm not accusing him of that.
We've seen Arwijn lose it. We know what that is.
Yeah,
he lets the beast out. He lets the beast out.
Yeah, the temperature rose a few times, but then it quickly dumped back down again. It didn't get anywhere. It was discussion, argument, and that's fine. There was no nastiness or spitefulness coming, from either way, I don't think. So
but it's maddening. Okay. It's maddening to listen to him. It's torture.
But the way I feel is by speaking to him and giving him a chance to speak. In effect, I'm giving him the chance to tell us some stupid things and hang himself.
Well, I think he did. He just repeatedly waved things off and said, "Oh, that's just cute." I mean, he just showed that he has nothing.
Yeah, we didn't really have evidence, did he?
It's there's so many brilliant people in science, and for generations, and all we've built scientifically, and these guys just wave it away like it's nothing.
It's so disrespectful, isn't it?
Yeah, and what have these guys done? I mean, what's Arwijn done with his life? And he just waves away all these accomplished people like it's nothing. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. And it's just it's staggering.
Well,
it really is staggering.
They think that they're doing actual research. They congratulate themselves on the cutting edge that they are on and the exploration. They believe that they are doing cutting edge stuff. I've listened to Nathan's show, and that's what comes through. We, they're just They say we're waiting for the globe earthers to catch up with us because we're way ahead of them.
Brenda, did you see Oakley's latest, or very near latest? It's a 2.5-minute short where he apparently debunks the solar system. Did you see that one? Yeah, and all that consisted was of him not letting Rumpus get a single sentence out without talking over him. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he's not just manually muting him, he's got it set so that when his mic triggers, it cuts the other sound, because you could hear as the moment Oakley stopped speaking, Rumpus's mic came back on, even if he was part way through a word. He did not let him say a word, and just it was crap. He had nothing other than pure bullying. That's all that was.
Yeah, well, Nathan actually has admitted that. He says that his mic is gated. And what he means by that is that he has a gate on his mic. So when he talks, all other mics get shut off. And only his comes through, is permitted to come through. And that's why he can be so domineering.
That would be okay if it was in a situation where the person you're talking to, as the channel owner, you can't get a word in edgeways, and the other one's really, and I'm cutting you off by talking over you because just to control the situation. But it's not. He's using it as a tactic to not let the other person, even get a sentence. You don't even know if what Rumpus was going to say was correct or a load of rubbish. He didn't get a chance to say it.
Does Oakley ever go outside of his own channel?
Not anymore, he doesn't.
No.
Never.
No.
Never. Not since, was it Conspiracy Cats ripped him a new one?
Conspiracy Cats tore him apart.
Big time. I'll give you 10 seconds to tell me what diffraction is.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Well, see, the thing about the most recent one that we were just talking about, Mr. Sensible, is I think it's a sign of desperation. Because I don't think for a second that Nathan Oakley believes the Earth is actually flat.
No, we know he doesn't.
And he sat there and is talking about crepuscular rays, and he knows that that's bullshit. And that must be desperation. His numbers must be going down. And so he's going on these really bad arguments from old flat Earth because he's got nothing left.
Well, someone posted about Oakley's figures. I'm just pulling it up now. Looking at Social Blade, that will only be a rough figure, but it says the last 30 days he's earned between 11 and 170 pounds. You have to take that with a pinch of salt, but certainly it's not big money. And in fact, in the last 30 days, he has not. He's in double figures, but he's not put on 100 subscribers over that period.
No, it's the same people over and over again. It's not growing.
Yeah, well, I think that Nathan Oakley's channel will die if Globe Earthers stop going on it. What Nathan Oakley, the service that Nathan Oakley provides is that he yells at Globe Earthers. That's what his subscribers want to see happen.
Yeah,
and that's the service that he provides. So if we starve him of people to yell at, I expect his channel to evaporate in short order.
The only one he seems to have So the only one he seems to have now is Rumpus.
Yep.
Does
Yes,
he?
please talk to Rumpus. Please talk to him, somebody.
I had Rumpus on here. I asked Rumpus on here, and he was on a live stream. I invited him on. I said, "Look, you never get a chance to speak on Oakley. Please come on here and chat." And he did. And I mean, I know that he is quite forceful in making a point because he's basing it on logic and that, and perhaps he's not got some of the social aspects of dealing with other people, but he seems to know his stuff, and he never gets a chance to say it.
So the first time I met Rumpus, I was debating Mind of God, and he was on there, and I will admit that I found him a little bit disruptive at some points. Dr. Bob couldn't get a word in edgeways, but he on listening to him talk with Nathan Oakley and talk with other flat earthers, he is extremely well versed. He doesn't need to take time to go and look at the background of stuff. He is on top of sort of arguments. He is able to beat down in real time the nonsense that they produce by cherry picking the wrong camera off the Mage experiment or that sort of thing. He does a really good job of in real time squashing a flat Earth argument flat. Obviously, they don't listen to him, but he is an extremely skilled. And I have publicly criticized him in the past for being disruptive, but I need to publicly praise the skills that he brings because they are extremely impressive. He's across a broad array of topics, and he's really, really good at just tamping down on stupid.
Yes.
Does anyone know, is Oakley's channel his primary source of income?
His wife works.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, what was that, Brenda?
His wife works.
Oh, okay.
And he has like 3 channels, and he circulates his videos from the three channels. I don't know. He makes a little bit of money.
Holy crap! Can you imagine being married? Oh my God, that poor woman.
Well, his daughter, his child.
Right. Okay. Actually, at that point, I'd like to move away from his personal life.
We need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Just focus on what comes out of his mouth.
Yep. I mean, his channel is his public output. We can talk about. I think. Okay.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That's cool. I'm not having a go, Brenda. I just thought, well, let's draw the line there because I mean,
yeah.
Let's
talk about something else. There's another point of big irony, which is Professor Tony, or PhD Tony. He actually uses the theory of gravity, and as I understand it, Tony, you take your students out to a field where you previously dug holes and buried objects, and they have to find it with the gravimeters. That's correct?
Yeah, that's a standard. Yeah, that's a standard training technique. Yep.
Well, the 10th man in the Nathan Oakley crew believes in dowsing. So this is the difference between the two communities here.
Oh dear.
One has a theory that actually works, and the other has one that is complete baloney.
So it's funny. It's funny you should mention that actually, because there's a climate denialist called Piers Axel Lunar, who was a big figure in sea level studies in Scandinavia, but he went a bit batty. And he's gone full tilt into climate denialism and sea level changing and this, that, and the other. But the thing that actually got him sacked was when he started teaching water dowsing as a university course. There are some strange people with some strange ideas out there.
Funny you should mention that I actually have an advanced degree in tarot cards.
Have you?
Yes, I do.
Ah. Oh man! Actually, Heat Shield said, Tony's students are outstanding in the field.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah, well, they're actually finding objects that are buried that they don't know where they are, based on a theory that flat Earth denies exists or is credible. If they can do it consistently, reliably, they can find objects that have been buried, and flat Earthers don't even have a crayon drawing of their Earth.
I think you're ruling out the possibility of magic, or God, or both.
There's that.
Yeah,
there is that.
You need to consider that.
I know this. If gravity doesn't exist, somebody needs to come over here and explain to me what these damn balls in my garage are doing.
Are you still polishing your balls, Blue?
I would always say that if you're out standing in your field, don't lie down on the job, or you might get a cow pat on the back.
Well, that's true too. Mr. Sensible was just asking if you're still Blue.
You cut out again. Sorry.
If you're still polishing your balls.
Yes, absolutely. On a daily basis.
So are those lead? Are those lead? And are you worried about the toxicity of lead?
Not one little bit. Yes, they are lead, and no, I'm not worried about the toxicity. It would be probably better not to vaporize it.
Or lick it too much.
Or lick them. You don't want to lick your balls.
Or lick it too much. That's true.
Oh my God!
But as long as all you want to do is polish them or scratch them or something like that, you're okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm a bit curious about because that doesn't create any dust you can inhale or anything like that.
No.
Touching a lead isn't a problem, is it?
Well, no. Blue's in trouble when Blue starts believing that the Earth is flat.
Well, that's true.
Then we'll.
Yeah, and it's gonna take a while. And I mean, this is I say this a lot, but that we were talking earlier about people within the community that I learned stuff from. Watching Blue do his demonstration and his science communication, I still think the butane experiment is just one of the most beautiful explanations, deconstructions of Oakley's entropy argument that I've ever seen. It just succinctly and directly tears it apart. So sort of there are just a bunch of people this community is lucky enough to have that are really great communicators, but that I'm learning from as I go along. So it's kind of humbling in a sense to be in that, but it's also exciting. It's just great to be learning stuff.
Isn't it just?
No, I agree.
Fun?
Blue stuff is great. I agree 100%.
I know they hate that damn pipe. Boy, they hate that thing.
Boy, they sure do. But now they have the problem because Nathan's gospel is that gas expands to fill all available space. But then he can't explain how the sodium hexafluoride or whatever it is, why when you pour it into that aquarium, why it doesn't expand to fill all the available space. Why does it stay in the aquarium?
Well, they go on.
Like
I've heard them say, "Well, if you come back tomorrow, there'll be less of it, or it will have all gone." But that's not the. I know that's not the point you're making, and I mean, I don't understand how they can say there is a gradient, like Arwijn agreed. There's a gradient, and yet you need a container. Why doesn't the high pressure, the high atmospheric pressure lower down? Why doesn't that whiz up to the top of Everest? No explanation, no containers, no barriers in between, other than gravity.
Yeah.
And in Arwin's own words, why does it not explosively go upward?
Gravity, you fucking.
All you need to get
Have you ever heard of
be it a
fucking
gas
gravity?
or a liquid to conform to a shape is a force that will drive it into that shape. Now that force could be the reaction force from a container or a vessel, or it could be an electromagnetic force as applied to, say, a plasma, containing a plasma inside a fusion reactor, or gravity. All of them, they just respond to all forces. There's nothing special.
Or any acceleration. I mean,
yep.
We've all seen the helium balloon in the car trick,
Yep.
where you force a pressure gradient to occur. by accelerating the gas that's in the compartment of the car, and the helium balloon moves forward toward the low pressure.
And
I found a video where they get helium balloons on the G plane, the vomit comet.
And welcome to Jordan. Sorry, I just brought in Jordan.
Those balloons go down. Those balloons go down. Why? Because the plane is accelerating in that direction. Free fall going down. It means the higher pressure is going to be at the top, so it'll push the helium down. Amazing. Yes. Works just like it says it should.
Hello, good evening, Jordan.
Hello, Mr. Sensible. How's everybody doing today?
Well, I'm fine, and I think the others are. You all fine, guys? I don't know how much of the stream you caught, if any, Jordan.
I just got on the. I just got on. I saw you were talking to Arwijn before. I'm gonna have to rewatch that back to see. But I heard you guys talking about polishing and licking balls, and I had to get in.
Well, blue marbles, your man. We'll leave you to it.
Was that just because you happened to be doing it at the time? Was it?
Actually, the other day I walked out and somebody was polishing their truck nuts, and I thought that was hilarious.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, yes, seriously. Big gold chrome truck nuts, and he was out polishing them, and I know why, because they were all dingy and dirty from all the snow and salt
you
that
gotta
we've been
keep
getting
them
recently.
keep
And I'm
them
like,
clean. That's a risky Google too, by the way.
well,
The guy should not. He shouldn't be allowing his off-road vehicle to go anywhere near dirt.
Yeah, you know, trucks, they're not designed to get dirty or anything.
Yeah. I need to clarify something for Brenda about what I said earlier. I'm not currently teaching, but it's a standard exercise for people learning how to use gravimeters that they get taken out to. But I'm not currently a teacher.
Okay.
I'm in a purely research capacity at the moment. Actually, I'm in between at the moment, reading up on snow petrel stomach oil. But
Oh, well, currently I happen to be going to the University of Minnesota and taking a couple courses there. Because of I'm a senior, I get a special discount on, and I can take university level courses, not contributing to a degree though. Oh, heavens no.
Okay.
So learning for learning's sake, Brenda.
Yeah. I'm taking Western history of Western philosophy and critical thinking at U of M. And I'm just so tired of Zoom. Oh my God.
Yeah. Did you know? You should check out the Sorbonne because the Sorbonne allow free access to their lectures.
Wow.
I'm not sure if basically anybody can wander off the street into any of their lectures and just sit down and learn.
That's really cool.
Isn't it just?
Doesn't MIT post a lot of their lectures online? Old lectures?
They may do. So there is a growing awareness of the power of this, but there are a couple of institutions who do not adopt any sort of restrictive practices at all. They think that just teaching people is more important than turning it into an exclusive product. So people like Arwijn could go and educate themselves for free if they decided that it was worthwhile. But it requires a willingness to learn. In which case you can't just hand wave away anything that disagrees with your preconceptions about how the universe should work.
Well, Tony, I watched your appearance on the Four Beardsmen the other day, and I actually liked your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I was in Australia 4 years ago, and I look forward to going back.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it'll be nice when we can.
Oh.
Yeah, Tony.
Guys, it's midnight, and I've been going for 3.5 hours, so I think I'm going to wrap up the stream now. Really,
you're going to take
really
a wee break and come back.
George gets in. George gets in here and everybody scatters.
That's about the long and the short of it, George.
Can I end with one final thing?
Yeah.
Remember that Dr. Sweetgenis that Fight the Flat Earth was debating the other day?
The geostationary guy.
He did not understand how rockets work. How balloons work in our atmosphere. He thinks they have to push off the air.
Yeah, that was precious, wasn't it?
Respectfully, and I say this to almost everybody, you could have ended that sentence after the words "he doesn't understand."
Yeah.
Yes, that was quite special, wasn't it? Yeah.
He got mad too.
I know, and Fight was trying to tell him about the rocket equation, wasn't he? But he was having none of it.
Yeah. I have heard people don't exist at all.
Sorry, Tony, you cut then.
Sorry, there is a suggestion that rockets don't exist at all, but we do use rockets in fireworks or in military applications to hit targets. So we do actually have rockets, and we do understand how they work. So
yeah, but like they said, though, Tony, those are in the atmosphere, aren't they? They're in the air.
Who was it that was talking about rockets need something to push on?
Yeah,
every flat earther ever.
But Spurs Chemo came out with a particular video where he, instead of the rocket equation, he used an equation that he plucked from hydrodynamics, and then said, "Well, it doesn't work. It makes no sense." Well, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You're using the wrong equation.
Yeah, well, they just have some really bad intuitions about how things work, and I don't maybe it's lack of early exposure to some concepts or something. I don't know.
Trauma.
Anyway, we should let Mr. Sensible get to his well-earned sleep. Of course,
we're taking over.
He is obviously a wuss bag for needing sleep.
Yeah.
See, you should just give me the stream key, Mr. Sensible. I can keep it rolling.
Okay. I'll email it to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're going to drop off. So before we go, we just want to say goodnight, everybody, and give you a complimentary tarot reading. Before we leave, ready?
Yeah.
I'm waving my hands over. And I'm going to pick the cards, and the cards say that within the next 7 fortnights, you will get an advanced degree in K-Zoology and have a PhD and become Dr. Sensible.
Wow. That sounds good. Thank you for that reading. Guys, thank you very much. What I'll do is I'll chuck you all in the waiting room. You're all welcome to stay and chat as long as you want. And if there's anyone out there watching the stream wants to jump onto the Discord, links in the description below. You can go into you'll see them either in the arena or probably still in the live waiting room and join in and have a chat with some of these guys. Should be fun. I'll pop in as soon as I finish the stream just to sort of say goodnight and that. So thank you very much, guys. I'll whiz you over there now. Thank you. That has been a brilliant stream. I did honestly enjoy it. I think Arwijn was a good sport to come on, not really knowing what to expect, although I did point him at previous streams, knowing it would just be him against me and whoever else was out here, and he didn't lose his rag. He didn't go effing and blinding or anything else like that, so credit Arwijn for that. Thank you very much. I still think you're totally 100% wrong, but I enjoyed having you on the stream. Thank you very much, everybody. I've got an interesting video tomorrow. You need to watch it because apparently the world is about to end and someone is going to give us the exact date and time. So really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Until next time, stay sensible.